Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to the 5th chapter of What Would Have Happened If Naruto Were the Reincarnation of Asura. I hope you enjoyed the previous chapter, and if not, I invite you to check out my channel. Without further ado, I'll leave you with the story.
Chapter 13. A Hole in the Leaf. Previously, the invasion had begun. Naruto sent a pulse of chakra through his body, breaking free of the Nien Shoja no Jutsu, Feather Illusion Jutsu. He got up and noticed that most of the Jonins were unaffected. "Kai!" yelled Naruto, unleashing a wave of Asura's chakra which rolled over most of his genin friends. Just then, Kakashi came by his side. "Listen up, all of you. We're under attack by Suna and Oto, so I need those who still haven't recovered fully from the preliminaries to help evacuate the civilians, while those who are medically fit are to defend the village from the attackers. As for Naruto, I want you to help Sayuri lure Gaara away from the village to minimize the damage and together, take him down." "Go!" "Hi, Kakashi-sensei!" The genins chorused before splitting up to do their respective jobs. Naruto leapt down from the stands to the arena floor, where the Tanuki was facing Sayuri. The Uchiha jumped back and met up with the Uzumaki who filled her in on the plan. She nodded, and both ran put of Konoha, taking a dilapidated route which would not cause too much collateral damage when Shikaku was chasing them. As expected, the one-tail followed in hot pursuit, but due to its size was a lot slower. This gave the two a minute to strategize how to take him down. To take a tailed beast down was rather difficult without Fuinjutsu. Naruto had one in mind, but it would take time to prepare, which they might not have. Sayuri thus offered to stall the Biju with her Rinnegan. Naruto also planned to summon the Toad Chief, as it would be much better to have a huge summon on their side as well. "Mindscape, Kurama," Naruto called. "HN?" the fox replied. "Is there a way you can bridge my consciousness with Gaara's? I wish to speak to Shikaku and persuade him." The Kyuubi was taken aback, unsure what to make of this. Never was there a time in history where humans actually attempted to understand the Bijus. Instead, they always opted to fight them head-on and seal them off. To think that Naruto actually cared about how the tailed beasts felt. His respect for his Jinchuriki just gone up. "I could link with my brother through the Biju Shinso Shinri, tailed beast psyche plane. If only we were fully linked as Biju and Jinchuriki." "That's not the case, as you can see," lamented Kurama, who tapped on the metal gate separating him and his Jinchuriki. "You should ask Jiraiya, he has the key." "Damn it!" Naruto cursed, making a mental note to ask the Sanin the next time he met him. "I have a solution," Asura offered. "As we may have neglected to inform you, Kurama-kun here was forced to attack Konoha by an Uchiha who wielded the Mangekyo Sharingan, the eye of my brother." Naruto drew the dots. "So you mean the Mangekyo is capable of controlling tailed beasts? You want me to ask Sayuri?" The Akatsuki nodded. "Further than that, the wielder of the Mangekyo is capable of entering a Jinchuriki's mindscape and interact within his as well as his tailed beast's consciousness." "All right then, thanks." Reality. Before the Uzumaki had a chance to explain that to Sayuri, Shikaku lumbered into the forest, with Gaara sticking out of his head. The lower half of the Jinchuriki's body was within the sand that made up the Biju's forehead, while the top half was exposed. "Ike! Sayuri!" The Uchiha took off running towards the Tanuki, intercepting any attacks that got in her path with her Sharingan. Gaara roared and amassed a huge amount of Futon chakra. Futon, Mugen Sajin de Tapa, Wind Style, Infinite Sandstorm Devastation. The Tanuki's mouth snapped open and released a powerful squall with millions of sand particles within. It tore through the forest and leveled numerous trees in the area. Sayuri formed the Horse Hand Seal. Katan, Goka Mikyaku, Fire Style, Majestic Destroyer Flame. Using her natural affinity for fire as an Uchiha, she generated a venerable amount of Katan chakra, which spanned a wide area, overcoming the winds with the elemental advantage. Meanwhile, Naruto was furiously scribbling on chakra paper to build a better seal for Shikaku. If all else failed and he couldn't convince the tailed beast, he would have to resort to that. Sand continued to fly crazily at Sayuri, who avoided most of it. "Naruto, I could use your summon's help here," she yelled as she flipped out of the way of another assault. "On it!" replied Naruto as he swiped his thumb across his canine, causing it to bleed. His hands danced through 5 hand seals. Meanwhile, the Tanuki had lunged at her as nimbly as a raccoon dog the size of a house could. The Uchiha's eyes widened, and she quickly thrust out her hands, throwing as much chakra as she could into her next jutsu. Shinra Tensei, a huge invisible force radiated from her and pushed back everything around her. Since Shikaku was the nearest, he took the brunt of the impact, though it took the Uchiha a lot of chakra to produce the force necessary to topple the Biju. She panted hard from the chakra expenditure as Shikaku crashed and landed on his back. The tomos on her Rinnegan faded away, indicating the loss of its full power. Much to her chagrin, she realized she was unable to manifest her Mangekyo at this time as well. Kuchios, Yatai Kazushi no Jutsu, summoning. Bring down the house jutsu, Naruto called. A huge cloud of smoke appeared in the sky directly above the half-transformed Shikaku. From it, the chief toad plunged in a 100-meter dive and slammed his bottom on the Biju's belly, squashing it further. Thanks, Gamabunta, said Naruto. The boss summon leapt away to Naruto's side upon noticing who he was sitting on. What sort of trouble did you get yourself into this time? Why are you fighting Shikaku? The Uzumaki explained as briefly as he could. Sayuri, the seal is ready, he called out. She nodded in acknowledgement. You need to use your Mangekyo to infiltrate his mind. I wish to contact Shikaku. The Uchiha was puzzled but didn't question him. My Mangekyo won't be ready for quite a while. I'll need help to keep him occupied till then. I have your back, Bunta affirmed. Thanks, said Sayuri as she noticed their opponent getting up. Gaara was furious. I won't let you diminish my existence. Mother, yes, I shall listen to you. Tanuki Nairi no Jutsu? Play possum jutsu. Once the last word left his mouth, his eyes closed and he slumped forward, asleep for the first time in many years. Naruto paled at the onset. Mindscape, Kurama. Didn't you say Shikaku forces his Jinchuriki to stay awake 24/7? What happens if the Jinchuriki falls asleep? Naruto asked. The fox replied gravely, Shikaku will be able to take full control of his Jinchuriki and possess him. You must wake Gaara to reduce Shikaku's hold over his Jinchuriki. The longer he is asleep, the more power my brother will amass. Reality. Naruto stood up as orange chakra enveloped him, for black orbs levitating behind his back. He slipped the chakra paper into his pocket and strode next to Sayuri, who was watching the Biju's actions. The one-tail's irises turned from a dark shade of yellow to bright yellow. His pupils resembled the arrangement of xylem and phloem tissues in a dicotyledonous root, a four-sided star in the center with dots surrounding it, one in between each edge of the star. I'm finally free, roared Shikaku, cackling madly with laughter. Let's get this started. Fton, Rankton, wind style, air bullet. He slammed his hands into his own stomach, forcing a huge ball of compressed to fire out of his mouth towards the three. Gamma Oyabun, Chief Toad, get ready for an opening, Naruto warned as he sent his Gudodama in front. They formed a huge shield which nullified the Rankuden upon contact. At his will, they parted to form a hole. It was through this hole that the Toad Chief launched his counterattack. Suetun, Tepidama, water style, gunshot. A copious amount of water rocketed through the opening and flew at Shikaku. The Biju retaliated with another air bullet, causing both to meet in the middle and collide, forming a small drizzle over the forest. Meanwhile, the Uchiha and the Uzumaki took the opportunity and jumped atop Gamabunta's head. As soon as Naruto retracted his truth-seeking balls, the one-tail created another air bullet and sent it off in their direction. The boss toad leapt up, dodging the attack and fired off the same Suetun jutsu. Tepidama, Rankuden, Tepidama, Rankuden. This went on for a few minutes. Shikaku finally said, You really do amuse me, Uzumaki Naruto, to wield the power of my brothers. And you, Uchiha Sayuri. The eyes of my father, why do you have them? Sayuri whispered as she felt a rejuvenating sensation return to her left eye, which manifested 6 tomos. My Mangekyo is ready. The 3 tomos in her right eye spun and warped to form 3 red ellipses with a black background. Naruto requested, Chief, Get us close to the sand spirit's eye level. You sure? Gamabunta asked, raising an eyebrow. Yep, we need to get close for this to work. The toad started charging at the humongous Tanuki. Shikaku belched an air bullet which Gamabunta flipped over. Needless to say, Sayuri and Naruto had to hold on tight with their chakra. As he was about to land, the toad pulled his sword out and brought it down in a huge swing at the Biju's right arm, severing it. Oh! Shikaku howled in pain. While he was distracted and unprepared, Gamabunta bludgeoned him on the head with the pommel of his sword and brought him face down onto the grass. Hurry! The chief toad urged. The Uchiha and Uzumaki complied, leaping off his head and landing right in front of Shikaku's face. Naruto jumped onto his forehead and sucker-punched Gaara, causing the Jinchuriki's eyes to fly right open in horror at being awakened. Naruto backflipped and landed next to Sayuri, who offered him a hand to hold as contact was required for him to enter the Jinchuriki's consciousness as well. The Uchiha stared into Gaara's eyes, concentrating on sending chakra to target his cerebral nervous system through visual contact. There was a noticeable change in his eyes. Surprisingly, it changed into the pattern of the Rinnegan instead of the Sharingan. So her Rinnegan was actually capable of applying powerful Genjutsu through eye contact as well. She took a mental note of that as she felt the world around her slip away. Gaara's mindscape, time freeze. The two appeared in a dark void with knee-height water. An unknown light source lit a small portion of the void, where Shikaku was standing. Fong-like protrusions surrounded him in the water, of which some had chains tethered to the Biju. Gaara was standing in front of the tailed beast in a wary manner. What are you doing here? You cannot kill Mother. Naruto squeezed Sayuri's hand before letting go, a signal meaning, I got this. He strode up to the Ichibi Jinchuriki and spoke, Don't worry, Gaara. I'm not here to kill your mother. I am here to listen to what she has to say. Naruto gave Shikaku a pointed look. Why have you done this? Why did you tell Gaara you were his mother? The tailed beast's voice suddenly became more masculine, shocking the redhead. I hate humans. I hate their existence, for they have scorned and taunted me for generations. Keika-san, Gaara questioned fearfully in a small voice. I am not your mother, foolish Jinchuriki. I am Shikaku, mighty one-tailed beast of the sand. Naruto sighed sadly as he recalled the mistreatment he had faced when he was younger. Gaara must have went through the same. Humans and beasts. There is no need for a distinction. No need for a distinction, you say? Shikaku repeated, interest piqued. It was eerily similar to what his first Jinchuriki, Bunpuku, had said to him. For too long, the Bijus have been mistreated by humans, taken against their will as bargaining chips for power amongst the villages. Their Jinchurikis, too, have been mistreated by their own villagers, ostracized like a piece of trash no one deserves to see. I know because I've been through it, said Naruto. There is no distinction between human and beast because now, who is the real beast? The Bijus deserve way better than what us humans have done to all of you. You shouldn't be sealed away and forced to live through the life of your jailer, only to be taken and sealed again into a new jailer once the previous one dies. He spoke with such sadness in his eyes that it radiated through the tailed beast. There was actually a human who cared about how tailed beasts felt. That is why I seek to liberate the Bijus, to give you all the respect you deserve, not as sources of power but as the guarantors to the peace that the Rakuto Sanin had envisioned when he split all of you up, to stop the Jubi from reforming and bringing an end to the earth again. Naruto declared with confidence. So please, stop tormenting Gaara. Accept him as your Jinchuriki, the one person who will understand you most. You will be repaid, as he will give you the respect you deserve. Shikaku was contemplating what he said, reminded of the words Bunpuku had imparted onto him, that someday, someone would appear in the world to teach him about the heart and acceptance. The blonde turned to Gaara, who was scared of him as he had just revolutionized his whole understanding of love and acceptance. Gaara, I know your pain as a fellow Jinchuriki, always being isolated and treated like a pariah by your own villagers. I was charged for overpriced items, kicked out of many stores and ignored by my own peers. But I learned to realize that to love is the key to finding acceptance and avoiding the darkness. As long as you have people who are precious to you, like your family or your friends, Your existence will never be diminished as you will live on forever in their hearts even if you are dead. You don't have to kill others to prove your existence. You just have to learn to protect your precious people, the people who love you most, and in return you'll gain strength like no other. Your siblings, Temari and Kankuro, love you though they are afraid to say it. In them you'll find acceptance. Gaara was stunned. His siblings loved him? Shikaku spoke up suddenly in a solemn voice. I can't believe I'm saying this to a human, but thank you, Uzumaki Naruto. I have learnt much from you. Naruto bowed. There is no need. I was just speaking my mind. I sincerely hope that one day, the humans and bijus will treat each other as equals. Shikaku smiled. You remind me of someone I know. A brother who once treated me the same way you do now. Akatsuki Asura? I'm his reincarnate, Naruto explained. No wonder. I wish you all the luck in your endeavors. Before you go, I have a gift for you. Shikaku brought his sand claw out and clenched it into a fist, offering it to Naruto. The blonde was puzzled but bumped his fist with the biju anyway. Instantaneously, memories flooded into his head, as well as a hell load of chakra. He recognized it as Shikaku's. Naruto saw and experienced the pain, loss, and suffering the One-Tail had gone through in his lifetime. From the death of the Rakuto Sanin to death of a Suna priest named Bunpoku, his first Jinchuriki. Naruto brought his fist back down to his side. I see. You have certainly went through a lot. Thank you for sharing this with me, Shikaku-san. The biju nodded. No problem. When you have fully linked with Kurama, use the Shinso Shinri to contact me. All right. Sorry for intruding, Gaara. We shall leave. Naruto turned to Sayuri, who had a poker face on but was inwardly impressed. He had managed to change the mindset of a biju who was hellbent on destroying humans, and somehow turned around Gaara's views as well. Jaeni. The two disappeared from the mindscape of Gaara. Reality, time continue. Naruto blinked, readjusting to the bright daylight. Gamabunta asked, how did it go? The Uchiha replied, somehow, Naruto managed to convince Shikaku and Gaara to turn over a new leaf. As she said so, the body of Shikaku crumbled into sand, falling apart. The chief toad was noticeably impressed. You are truly one of a kind, Uzumaki Naruto. With that, he grabbed his sword and dispelled in a burst of smoke. Something Naruto said earlier had caught Sayuri's attention. By the way, what did you mean earlier when you said, to stop the Jubi from reforming and bringing an end to the earth again? The Uzumaki replied shortly, I'll tell you on the way. Right now, we need to focus on assisting the defense of the village. He then started running back to the village with Sayuri close behind. He began explaining the great prophecy Jiraiya had told him about as well as the return of Kagaya, leaving out the part where Gamamaru had thought him to be one of the children of the prophecy. However, Sayuri had caught on, already suspecting it because she knew he was a student of Jiraiya. You're one of them, aren't you? Questioned the Uchiha. Naruto swallowed his saliva and pondered on his answer. Mindscape. She knows that she's Indra's transmigrant, doesn't she? Naruto said to no one in particular. I'm positive, Asura replied. She wouldn't have gotten the Rinnegan, much less with 6 Tomo otherwise. She possesses the 6 paths in power. It's also highly likely that she knows you are my reincarnate. Just come clean with her. Remember what I said about trying to free her from the Uchiha clan's curse of hatred. Reality. Yes, I am one of them. You are the other child, Sayuri-chan, replied Naruto. The Uchiha was silent. That was a reaction the Uzumaki had expected. Whenever she received news of something big, she would keep silent to think about it instead of overreacting like most people would. Still, it was eerie to see her keep quiet for the next 100 meters or so of tree jumping. I am the transmigrant of Indra, Sayuri announced suddenly. She then looked at Naruto expectantly. Naruto hesitated before replying, as you probably already know, I'm the transmigrant of Asura. Our past selves have had interesting interactions. MMHM. I'm aware. Both were then awkwardly silent as they did not know what to say. Thankfully, they had reached the walls of the village, which saved them from further awkward silence. Naruto bounded over the wall and entered the village. As soon as he landed, an Odonin attacked him from behind. The enemy struck with a backstab, only to find it blocked by a black shield formed by Naruto's Gododama. The Uzumaki fashioned a Shikujo out of his orbs and slammed the business end into his assailant's stomach, throwing him away like a rag doll. It was just the man's misfortune that Naruto was a censor. Sayuri landed next to him, and both continued to journey on into the heart of the village where the invasion was being carried out. The Uchiha took a glance with her eyes and remarked, "We're gradually pushing the enemy back. Down the block, at the alley on the left, there are 6 enemies." Naruto tapped his staff onto the floor lightly. Silently and precisely, the rings attached to his staff disengaged and flew into the alley ahead of them, recombining and emitting a bright flash of light. Seconds later, they returned to their owner's Shikujo. "You sure about that, Sayuri-chan? You might want to check again." 6 unconscious enemies, the Uchiha repeated, rolling her eyes. Any enemies they continued met a quick end, either killed by Sayuri or knocked unconscious by Naruto. "You don't have to kill them, you know?" Naruto commented after her latest kill. Sayuri stated simply, "Dead men can't fight you again." Secretly, the Uzumaki sent minute fragments of his Gododama to patch them up with Yotan chakra. Though they remained unconscious, at least they weren't dead. Most of the time, the Uchiha had left them for dead, causing them to bleed to death rather than decapitating them completely, of course. Those who fell under the latter category were unable to be saved, but the Uzumaki did what he could. Sayuri continued to trudge ahead, mercilessly cutting down opponents with her Chikudo. She then looked up, noticing a huge fluctuation of chakra at the stadium from earlier. The chakra presences there were massive. She narrowed her eyes and took a closer look with her Rinnegan. The Uchiha gasped, "Naruto. The Sandaime is fighting against Orochimaru and 2 others, and if I'm not wrong." Her gaze shifted to the Hokage rock, which confirmed her fears. "The 2 are the Shodai and Nidaime Hokages." Naruto was shocked. Why would the 3rd be facing off against 2 people long dead, much less his predecessors? He bet this had something to do with Orochimaru. "Come on, we need to help Sarutobi-Jiji," said Naruto, who vaulted up onto the nearest rooftop and began sprinting in the direction of the stadium. Sayuri was not far behind. It didn't take the Rinnegan to notice that there was a giant, 4-sided purple barrier present. At each corner, an Odonin was within the barrier, maintaining it. Upon closer inspection, there was a second barrier in front of them. Essentially, the setup was to prevent people both inside and outside from getting in or out. Simultaneously, it protected the 4 from attack so the barrier could be safely maintained. Though it did not have a roof, the walls of the barrier were very high, towering into the sky. It would be impossible for them to enter from above. As Naruto neared the stadium, he asked Sayuri, "How are we going to get in?" Sayuri answered, "I have an idea. My Mangekyo has a Jikuken ninjutsu, space-time ninjutsu, Kamui, which allows me to teleport myself and objects in and out. I will be able to slip us through my dimension and get us within the barrier. This works because the barrier is only erected within this current dimension and does not bridge into mine as well." Naruto grabbed her hand, causing her to blush ever so slightly. "Let's do this." Kamui. Her right eye morphed into a Mangekyo. 2 spiraling voids centered around her eyes drew Naruto and herself inwards, absorbing both into Kamui's dimension. She ejected him out of her dimension once they arrived within the barrier. The blonde lunged at the 2 Hokages at high speeds, holding up the shadow clone hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 2 copies of him burst into existence and were launched at Hashirama and Tobirama, engaging them in combat while the original flew at Orochimaru with a punch augmented by Asura's chakra. Naruto savored the moment as his fist slammed into the face of the snake Sanin, who had brought Sayuri so much pain. The satisfying crunch as Orochimaru's facial bones snapped was a melody to his ears. The force generated by his punch was enough to send the Nuke-nin flying across the rooftop before he eventually crashed onto the roof tiles. The blonde returned to the Sandaime's side. "Gigi, what's going on?" The 3rd spoke. "The 2 former Hokages have been revived through the Kuchiyose, Edo Tensei, summoning, reanimation, which was invented, ironically, by the Nidaime himself. It involves calling the souls of the dead from the Pure Land and placing them in human sacrifices for their use as vessels. Dust and earth covers the vessels, forming the likeness of the dead person. Whatever bodily damage they take simply regenerates from dust. From what I've seen, they've only been revived at around 10% of their original power. Orochimaru has suppressed their wills with talismans in order to force them to fight me. 10% of their original power? Naruto looked at the rooftop in disbelief. The place was hardly recognizable as a rooftop. The entire site was a scene of devastation, covered with an extensive forest of trees from the Shodai's legendary Mokuton, wood style, and flooded with water by the Naidame, who was hailed as the powerful Suetun user in shinobi history. Hiruzen was no pushover either, having conjured towering earthen walls to his defense. Souls, you say? Sayuri repeated with a smirk, an idea forming in her head. Do you have a plan, Sayuri-chan? Asked the Sarutobi. The Uchiha nodded, pointing to her glowing left eye. Naruto, get your clones to distract or restrain the Hokages. She ran towards Tobirama, who was busy fighting a clone. Of course, she knew that he was a censor from her studies at the Konoha Archive Library, so she knew it was pointless to ambush him. At least at a level he could detect with his 10% power. Rinbo, she murmured. Almost immediately, her shadow grabbed hold of Tobirama, who found himself unable to move. Wasting no time, Sayuri reached for his body and intoned, Ninjendo, Kyukan no Jutsu. Tobirama's soul materialized, and with a hard yank, she disconnected and released it from his body. The soul floated away, returning to the pure land while the ashen material surrounding the reanimated body left it. Only the sacrificial corpse of Tsuchi-kin remained in his place, collapsing to the floor. With Naruto earlier, the original approached Hashirama, who had just obliterated his clone with a fist full of chakra. Naruto waved his hand at the Shodai Hokage, sending black rods fashioned out of the Gododama at him. 7 of these rods pierced the Mokuton user and immobilized him as Hashirama was made from the Edo Tensei, a jutsu which the Gododama nullified. Naruto channeled chakra into his right hand and reached into Hashirama's head, grasping a kunai with a talisman from within. Once his fingers closed around the will-suppressing seal tag, Naruto pulled it out of the reanimated Shodai Hokage and discarded it onto the floor. Hashirama's sclerae turned from black to a lighter gray, indicating the return of his will and personality. The reanimated body widened in realization as he recognized the chakra before him, reminiscent of his own. You're me in this life, aren't you? Hi, Shodai-sama, Naruto confirmed. I am Uzumaki Naruto, Asura's next transmigrant after you, Lord Hashirama. The first's hands shot up and clutched Naruto's forearms. Uzumaki, huh? Listen up, I need you to end the conflict with Indra's transmigrant in this life. Please promise me you'll do your best, or conflict will continue to grip the world. Naruto nodded. Don't worry, I will, Shodai-sama. Mindscape. I just remembered something I wanted to tell you, said Asura. Those who possess my chakra and have mastered Senjutsu are capable of using Mokuton naturally, and so far only Hashirama and I have been known to possess Mokuton in shinobi history. Since you have just mastered Senjutsu, I figured it would be a good time to tell you, and when better than in the presence of the most famed user of the wood style. I'll teach you some of the jutsus later once you're done with this. Naruto did not really know how to react, but was overjoyed that there would soon be a new addition to his ninjutsu arsenal. Reality, Naruto declared. Goodbye, Shodai-sama. I give you my word. I will end the conflict between Asura and Indra. The first nodded as best as he could in his paralyzed state, before Naruto willed the rods to expand and completely disintegrate the reanimated body. The Uzumaki stood up just as Sayuri finished her business with the Naidame. Both looked at each other before turning to face the snake Sanin, who was slowly getting up from the Uzumaki's punch. His face was completely unrecognizable as Naruto had significantly rearranged his facial features. To think that Orochimaru was still standing. He was definitely a tenacious enemy. Suddenly, he gripped his disfigured face and tore it off as one would do to a sheet of paper. Under it was a new face, feminine but still retaining the striking features of Orochimaru, like his sharp, slitted yellow eyes and his malicious grin. The Sandaime was bewildered as the Sanin laughed evilly, licking his lips with his long, forked tongue. Orochimaru, what have you done? You are no longer human. Hiruzen spat, disgusted. No, I am certainly not a human. I have ascended and became an immortal. The Team 7 duo exchanged glances and silently agreed on a plan. Without a word, they took off towards the snake Sanin at high jonin speeds. Sayuri reached for her pouch as she neared Orochimaru, sliding a finger through the ring of a kunai. She whipped it in front of her and threw it at the man in a straight line. With a sharp whistling sound, it zipped towards Orochimaru. The snake Sanin narrowly avoided it by tilting his head to the right, but as soon as it flew past him, Sayuri's Rinnegan locked onto it. Naruto flashed through the hand seals for a few ninjutsu as Sayuri intoned, Ameno Tajikara. Instantaneously, she swapped places with the airborne kunai, shocking Orochimaru. The Uzumaki grabbed the kunai from where Sayuri was just an instant ago and drove it into the snake Sanin's stomach, just as the Uchiha brought him to his knees with a quick takedown from the back. Naruto proceeded to grip Orochimaru's hands and glared into his eyes as Jutsushiki appeared, running along his forearms. Searing hot pain ripped its way through his arms as his chakra network was destroyed, eliciting a scream from Orochimaru before they went completely numb and fell to his side uselessly. The duo jumped away just before the snake Sanin lashed out in anger with a snake shooting out from his mouth. It withdrew as Orochimaru wailed uncharacteristically, "My arms! What have you done to my arms?" Once they returned to the Sandaime side, Naruto replied, "I have completely destroyed the chakra network in your arms. You will never be able to mold chakra to hurt anyone ever again." Hiruzen watched their seamless teamwork in fascination, as well as the few ninjutsu that did a number on his wayward student. Without even exchanging words, the two had managed to execute a takedown and a sealing flawlessly. Teamwork of this kind was impressive. In fact, even most seasoned duos wouldn't be able to execute a plan of this level of detail without some form of communication. He was speechless. The four Odo shinobi maintaining the barrier dropped it and quickly went to their leader's side. Orochimaru warned, "Beware, Uzumaki Naruto. This will not be the last you see of me. I will have my revenge." At that, one of the Odanin threw down a smoke bomb. When the smoke cleared, they had disappeared. After confirming the absence of the enemy, Naruto turned worriedly to the Sandaime. "Gigi, are you alright?" asked Naruto. The Hokage waved his hand in fatigue as he responded, "I'm fine, just a little tired. I need a long nap and a retirement after this." The Uzumaki chuckled softly as he waved his hand over his grandfather figure, sending Yotan chakra into his system. ANBU agents arrived and quickly took the aged Hokage away to the hospital for proper medical treatment. In the distance, a war horn sounded twice for retreat. The remaining troops from Suna and Odo withdrew from the village, leading the Konohinin to celebrate. Some parts of the village had been destroyed and repair work would take quite a while, at least 2 weeks or so. Thankfully, most of Konoha had been preserved and for the majority, life resumed as per normal. It was Thursday, the 17th of July. It had been 5 days since the invasion, and Naruto had been working on his newly discovered Mokuton under the instruction of Asura. It had been explained to him that the reason for needing to be a sage before unlocking the wood style was because he would then be able to utilize natural energy to transform his chakra to become a life source from which trees could grow. Although growing trees as a power sounded pathetic, Naruto had witnessed the power of Mokuton firsthand on the roof that day. It was without a doubt destructive. Other developments included the discovery of Suna's missing Kazekage, lying dead in a desert dune, his face missing as it had been stolen by Orochimaru for impersonation. Apparently, the invasion had been suggested by the snake Sanin, and because Suna's leader disagreed, Orochimaru had killed him and took his place to give the people of Suna the impression that he supported the invasion. Thus, both Suna and Otonin participated in the invasion, or the Konoha Crush as it was termed. As Tsunade realized that it had been tricked into taking part in the Konoha Crush, it surrendered unconditionally to the Leaf, which accepted it and continued the Leaf-Sand Alliance. While the Hokage was hospitalized, the council was making decisions on his behalf. The third had caught wind of it and summoned Jiraiya and Naruto to his ward. "Sarutobi Gigi, how are you doing?" greeted Naruto as he entered the ward and placed a flower in the vase on the nightstand next to his bed. Jiraiya smacked him lightly on the back of the head. "Don't be rude, Naruto. The Uzumaki rubbed his head in mock pain. Hiruzen smiled as he sat up. It's okay, Jiraiya. I'm doing fine, Naruto-kun, but the village is not. He proceeded to form hand seals and created a sound barrier to keep the conversation he was about to have private. Jiraiya, I've heard that the council is functioning collectively on my behalf, and knowing Danzo, the elders are probably steering decisions in their favor. The civilians in the council are probably profiting as well, by using the damage as an excuse to channel the village's funds and monetary resources to themselves excessively. As I'm sure you know by now, I want to step down and have a successor as soon as possible. I want you to take my job, Jiraiya, said Toad Sage shook his head. I won't. I have too many faults that make me unworthy of such a post. I'm also busy with running my spy network and authoring books for people like you. However, I do have someone else in mind. The third raised an eyebrow. And who would that be? Tsunade Haim, Jiraiya stated tersely. Ah, I see. Retrieving her would be a difficult task though. Jiraiya smirked. Sarutobi-sensei, you forgot that I run the largest network of spies in all the elemental nations. Naruto and I will locate her and bring her back by next week. As for persuading her to return, I'm sure Naruto is able to do that, given how he convinced the Jinchuriki of Shikaku to stop his rampage. The Sarutobi smiled. Oh yes, I called Naruto here for another reason as well. You performed excellently during the Chunin exams, Naruto-kun, and your effort to repel the invaders was even more admirable, Hiruzen praised. The blonde felt embarrassed at being complimented. It's nothing much, Gigi. You don't have to blow my work up to more than I actually did. Sayuri and the others contributed greatly as well. Hiruzen nodded. As I'm aware, there's no need to be humble, Naruto-kun. You should be proud of what you did. For that, you are hereby unofficially promoted to Chunin. It will be made official by the new Hokage. Needless to say, Naruto was ecstatic. He was now one step closer to the title of Hokage. So are Sayuri and Shikamaru. Naruto's face fell almost instantly. If Sayuri was Chunin, that meant that the CRA would be placed into effect as soon as the council found out. Meanwhile, Jiraiya's eyes widened at the implication of Naruto's promotion. Sarutobi-sensei, do you mean dash? Yes, interrupted Hiruzen, a smile on his face. It's time Naruto knew of his heritage. Naruto's train of thought was disrupted as soon as he heard his name and the word heritage. Gigi, what do you mean by heritage? Naruto questioned, curiosity creeping into his voice. Jiraiya gave the Sandaime a knowing look before turning to the son of his most outstanding student. Naruto, Jiraiya announced, your mother was the red-hot habanero of Konoha, Uzumaki Kushina, and your father was none other than Konoha's Kiroi Senko, the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. Chapter 14. The Search for the Fifth. Previously, and your father was none other than Konoha's Kiroi Senko, the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. Naruto was silent for a total of 7 seconds as the information sank in. I don't understand. I mean, how is this possible? This is a joke, right? He looked at the Sandaime with desperation in his eyes, silently pleading the man to tell him that Jiraiya was just kidding. But he didn't. Instead, in his eyes were sadness. I know this must be very shocking news for you, Naruto-kun, and understandably so. I'm sorry we didn't tell you earlier. However, please know that your father had many enemies, and he wished to protect you from them. They knew that with your mother being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, your birth could very well result in their deaths, so he wrote a will in the event he died before he got to raise you, that you would only know about him when you were promoted to Chunin, as you would at least be able to protect yourself from the enemies sure to come. And now that you know, you will inherit the Uzumaki clan compound as well as the associated assets, Sarutobi explained. But why? Why would the Yondaime seal the Kyuubi into his own son? Questioned Naruto as tears began to fall. Flashbacks began to run through his head about the suffering he had endured in his childhood. Jiraiya replied, Minato was a noble leader, and he wouldn't ask for anyone else's child to seal the 9 tails in. If it's any comfort, he did so in the belief that you could control it and wield its power. Naruto raised his hand to his eyes and wiped the tears that were forming. Did they love me? Though he already knew the reply, he wanted to hear it right from the mouth of his father's teacher. Jiraiya nodded. They did. They loved you a lot. Before you were even born, they had already prepared a nursery full of toys in the house for your arrival. But alas, that was not to be, said Jiraiya, a sad expression on his face. Can I go there now? Requested Naruto as he stood up. Hiruzen replied, Go ahead. It's your birthright. It's locked by a blood seal. As they were about to leave, the Sandaime stopped them temporarily. Please locate Tsunade as soon as possible. I can't tolerate the council running the village anymore, much less Shimura Danzo. He's a dangerous man. Jiraiya nodded. We will, Sarutobi-sensei. Please take care. They then left the hospital for his apartment. As they were walking, Naruto's head was spinning with conflicted thoughts. It was confusing. He wanted to find Tsunade as soon as possible, because he didn't want the council, who were the people causing Sayuri so much trouble, to be in power any longer. At the same time, finding Tsunade would make Sayuri's promotion to Chunin official and valid, which would give the council the legal right to enact the CRA on Sayuri. He decided to persuade this Tsunade person to withhold Sayuri's promotion until he could find something to stop the CRA. When Naruto returned home, he grabbed his most important things and sealed them in a scroll to bring to his new house. The master and student took a walk to a secluded area in Konohagakure that had been overgrown with trees, which obscured the compound from the view of the public eye. On the gate of the compound was what Naruto recognized as the blood seal the third was talking about. He drew some blood and smeared it on the seal. Upon recognizing the DNA of the owner, the gate snapped open. Naruto then modified the seal to work with his fingerprint instead, as using blood to open the gate every time would be a pain in the neck. Your father was a seal master, Jiraiya remarked, looking approvingly at the seal. And your mother, even more so because she originated from the Uzumaki clan. Wait, the Uzumakis were a shinobi clan? Asked Naruto. He had thought that the Uzumakis were a simple civilian clan or family, and never imagined that they would be a shinobi clan. Jiraiya nodded in confirmation. Indeed, they were a very powerful clan, and even had a village of their own called Yuzushogakure, village hidden in the whirlpools. The Uzumaki clan was renowned for their enormous chakra reserves and potent chakra prowess, as well as their skill with Fuinjutsu. Almost every member of the clan was a seal master back in the day. Back in the day? Yeah. They were widely feared by the other villages for their strength. So many years ago, some villages got together and invaded Uzushio, destroying it completely. Your mother was one of the few survivors, and she came to Konoha, which was an allied village. The Shodai Hokage was married to Uzumaki Mido, the first Jinchuriki of the Kyubi. So as a result, the two villages were allied. As you can see, we still wear the red Uzumaki spiral on the back of our flak jackets in memory of the strong alliance we once had with Uzushio. Your mother became the second Jinchuriki of the Kyubi, taking over from Mido, as Uzumakis were the only people who had sufficient chakra prowess and Fuinjutsu to control the Nine Tails. And then we have you, the third Jinchuriki, who although didn't inherit the characteristic red hair of the Uzumaki, still possesses the majestic chakra of the Uzumaki clan and their innate skill for Fuinjutsu. Naruto was silent as he digested the information, realizing the power his maternal clan formerly had in its heyday. He proceeded to enter the residence, a two-story house that wasn't too big considering it was a clan compound. Compared to Sayuri's home, his was a lot smaller. In front of the house was a small garden with a pond, and behind the house was a huge training field with barrier seals, probably for his father to train in, considering the destructive nature of Kaga-level techniques. The house itself was much larger than what he was used to, a modern abode equipped with a master bedroom, a nursery, 2 bathrooms, one with a shower and one with a tub, an armory, an onsen room, a kitchen and a kitchenette, a living room, a sealing room, a gymnasium, a swimming pool, and a library stocked with clan manuals on Fuinjutsu, clan techniques, chakra guides, law books, as well as history books covering shinobi history from the birth of chakra to the Warring States period, leading all the way to modern times with the establishment of the 5 great shinobi countries. Overall, it was a pretty awesome house. Definitely better than his old, Vandalist apartment, and the main problems were that it was very dusty due to almost 13 years of neglect, and it was too far from the Uchiha compound. The garden was also overgrown with weeds and the plants were withered. It was also too far from the Uchiha compound. He didn't like the fact that the pond water was dirty. or the fact that it was too damn far from the Uchiha compound, where he only had to travel for 5 minutes previously in order to reach Sayuri. He now had to travel to the other side of the village just to see her. It was ridiculous. What if she was in urgent need of help? He then cast the thought away. What the hell was he thinking? Sayuri was never in need of help. He then realized he was just making excuses for himself to see the Uchiha. What a pathetic person he was. Naruto summoned 50 shadow clones to deal with the dirt issue, while the original grabbed some clan manuals to read during his search for Tsunade. After packing some more essentials, Naruto and Jiraiya left the village to locate its next leader. He was browsing through one of the law books when a clause to the Clan Restoration Act caught his eye. Any clan head marrying another clan head, whether either or both were under the CRA, would make both exempt from it. This was to encourage the mixing of bloodlines which could potentially mutate and result in stronger progeny, equipped with much more powerful Kekai Genkai or even dual bloodlines. He remembered seeing this before in the Konoha Archive Library, but at the time, he wasn't aware of his heritage yet. As it turned out, it was an opportunity that he could use to save both Sayuri and himself from the Clan Restoration Act. However, it would certainly cause a lot of awkwardness between them, and he didn't know if he was ready for that. To think that one day he would be marrying his teammate, Uchiha Sayuri. The mere thought of it was hilarious. Why would she want to be with a guy like him? Mindscape. Kurama shook his head. This guy is clueless. Asura stifled a laugh, settling for a smile instead. Ah, young love. My incarnate is honestly dense in that department. Reality. He was only doing this to save her from the CRA, but he didn't want to infringe on her personal freedom to pursue the person she truly loved. Well, he supposed it was a necessary evil. A small part of him craved for her affection, but Naruto suppressed it for the sake of doing it in the name of duty. Now, he was overjoyed and couldn't wait to find Tsunade, as doing so would cement his position as the Uzumaki clan head, thereby allowing him to manipulate the loophole he had just discovered. He was grinning to himself as he strode alongside Jiraiya, who was reading his own books and giggling. Yo, Ero Sanin, perverted sage. Where are we headed to? Naruto asked, noting that he hadn't been informed of the destination. Jiraiya paused and looked up from his book. I've received intel from my sources that Tsunade was spotted recently in the Land of Fire. Lately, many towns in the area are having festivals. Where there are festivals, there will be gambling. And where there's gambling, Tsunade will be there without a doubt. So we'll start town hopping and we'll find her soon enough. And stop calling me Ero Sanin, damn it. Naruto rolled his eyes, looking pointedly at the erotic literature in his teacher's hands. He resumed reading his clan manual. Just then, a thought came to mind as he was thinking about seals. He had yet to ask Jiraiya to unlock the hack Fuin. Say, Jiraiya-sensei. Naruto called suddenly, immediately getting the attention of the Toad Sage as he was addressing him properly for once. Yes, I'd like you to give me the key to the 8 trigrams seal. Wait, what dash? You heard right, sensei. The Kyuubi and I are on good terms, and I even know his real name. Since you already know about Akatsuki Asura, you shouldn't be worried about any demonic possession. Unlocking the seal will allow us to link fully and perform the Bajuka, tailed beast transformation, as well as let me gain uninhibited access to his chakra. I could have ended the fight with Gaara much faster if I could use the Bajuka or the Biju Shinso Shinri then, so please give me the key. Naruto persuaded, knowing he would have to do all he could to gain possession to the key. He hated speaking about Kurama like that, a weapon or a power source, but knew it was necessary to convince Jiraiya to trust him with to unlock it. I'm sorry, Kurama. I don't like talking about you like that, Naruto thought before he was cut off by a "it doesn't matter" from Kurama. It did, but the Kitsune was glad that his Jinchuriki cared so much about his kind. All right, Jiraiya acquiesced. Kuchios no Jutsu. An orange and black toad appeared in a burst of smoke. Eyeing the blonde with blue eyes, Geratora instantly recognized his original summoner's son. He still remembered the exact words the fourth had said to him. When Naruto is ready, give him the key. So, the first question he asked was, is he ready, Jiraiya? The Sanin weighed his answer as he knew his reply would be instrumental in convincing the skeptical toad to hand over the key. The Toad Sage decided to have his faith in his student. I strongly believe so, Geratora. Naruto looked at Geratora confidently. I'm prepared, Geratora-san. Uneasily, the toad took a final glance at the blonde before reluctantly jumping into his mouth. The Uzumaki's eyes widened in shock and disgust as the toad was wriggling his way into his mouth. It's part of the process, Naruto. Sit down and get to your subconscious. Concentrate on channeling the Kyuubi's chakra, instructed Jiraiya. Naruto complied, closing his eyes as he was pulled into his mindscape. Mindscape time freeze. When the Uzumaki appeared before the huge bars of the gate separating Kurama from him, the parchment with the kanji for seal began to peel off. Finally, it dropped off completely and landed in the water within the basement, beginning to dissolve. This revealed a circle-shaped spiral lock in between the two doors of the prison. At the same time, chakra gathered from the dissolved parchment and manifested into two people, the yondaime and his wife. Naruto's eyes went wide. When he calmed down, he decided to try saying the words he never got to all his life. Tuchan, Ka-chan. The beautiful red-haired lady smiled and nodded. Naruto-kun, I'm your mother Kushina, and this is your father, Minato. The blonde man laughed. I never thought I would get to see my son all grown up. How old are you now, Naruto-kun? The handsome yondaime asked. 12 3/4, Tuchan, replied Naruto unsteadily, still fazed by this unreal scenario. The photogenic couple before him was really his parents? Minato was slightly surprised. The boy seemed horribly mature for his age. It must have been the experiences he had gone through as the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki. I see. Almost 13 already. I'd like to speak to you further. But first, we have business to do. I built it into the seal such that our chakras would be released should the seal break. So now we'll have to subdue that guy, he said, gesturing at the kitsune behind the bars of the seal. There's no need for that, Tuchan, Naruto replied, before explaining at length his life story so far. He introduced them to Asura as well. Kurama growled. Can y'all talk later? I don't fancy being stuck here any longer than I should be. Naruto laughed. Right? Gomen, Kurama. He reached for the seal on his stomach and like a knob, he turned the spiral inscribed on it. Accordingly, the spiral lock on the gate began to unwind before disappearing completely into the interior of the gate. For the first time in 13 years, the doors of the gate swung open. Kurama grinned as he got up and stretched, feeling much more at home with the wider legroom. Then a thought occurred to him. Can't you just change the scenery to something nicer? It is your mindscape, after all. Oh yeah. Naruto rubbed his chin thoughtfully before snapping his fingers at the first thing that came to his mind. The basement warped and disappeared, becoming a lawn filled with an ocean of flowers that stretched to infinity. Kurama's sweat dropped noticeably. The change was drastic and was a little too flowery for his liking. Naruto noticed this and snapped his fingers again sheepishly, replacing the field with a lush forest instead. Much better now. Thank you, Naruto. The blonde smiled as it was the first time he heard it from his tenant. You're welcome, Kurama. He turned back to his parents, who continued to converse with him about his life. So, do you have a crush? Minato asked with a cheeky smile on his face. Asura watched with amusement as Naruto's expression turned uncomfortable, blood flushing his cheeks. Kushina noticed this and laughed aloud. Ah, so you do have a crush, Naruto-chan, she cried. Who is she? Is she cute? Is she nice? What's with all these questions, Ka-chan? Naruto complained, his blush worsening at each and every one. She is cute, no beautiful in my opinion. As for nice, I don't really know. Sometimes, she's very kind to me and other times she's cold. I don't get it. Minato chuckled. Women, complicated, whatever the generation. That earned him a smack on the back of his head from none other than the red-hot habanero herself. Ya sexist bastard. Ow, Kushina smiled. I'm sure you'll gain her attention, Naruto-kun. If you're anything like your father, your charisma, charm and kindness will get her attention. I'm sure of it. Naruto shook his head. I'm not so sure about that. I don't know if she even likes me one bit. You still haven't told us her name, Naruto-kun, said Minato. Her name is Uchiha Sayuri. Minato flinched visibly at the surname, which was justified since the one who had attacked him that night and caused many losses to the village possessed the ocular power of the clan. Kushina's eyes went wide. Uchiha Sayuri? Isn't that Mikoto-chan's daughter, Minato-kun? The Hokage nodded. I remember. You even said you wanted to arrange a marriage between Naruto-kun and Sayuri when they grew up. Kushina sighed. I wished I got the chance to. Now, Naruto-kun is pining for her affection and is receiving mixed signals. I do plan to propose to her after I find Tsunade though. Our marriage will save her from the CRA, though I'm really hoping she at least likes me. I don't want to force her into a loveless marriage and hope she finds the one she truly loves so she'll at least be happy, Naruto said. Kushina's eyes lit up. Ah, how romantic. Not even caring if she likes someone else as long as it'll make her happy. That's true love, all right. Selfless and unconditional. Minato wasn't as cheerful, realizing that Sayuri being under the CRA meant that she was the last of her kin. He empathized with his son, patting his fellow blonde on the back. I really hope she likes you, Naruto-kun. I don't want you to be emotionally hurt. I know very well how long it takes to get a girl to know your feelings and reciprocate. His gaze trailed to Kushina. He turned back and continued. But trust me, when she does, it'll all be worth it, said Minato. Thank you, Tuchan. I'll keep that in mind, Naruto replied, smiling. Asura cleared his throat. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Naruto-kun, please don't forget what you were here for. Kurama had been waiting patiently, awfully uncharacteristic of him, but he must have been enjoying his new freedom. And when Naruto finally faced him, he stuck out his fist. By now, the Uzumaki knew what to do. The blonde boy tapped his fist against the titanic kitsunes, connecting his already massive chakra reserves to the cubies. Like a floodgate that burst open, chakra surged into his body. Naruto's and Kurama's chakra were now linked via a powerful conduit that was not only physical, but also spiritual in nature. A huge collection of memories were exchanged as well. Naruto felt a fair share of Kurama's pain and suffering, very similar to that of Shikaku, just that his hatred was far greater. The two now shared a much deeper understanding of each other, their drive and their motivation, their emotions and their reasoning behind every action. Kurama cracked a grin, which just looked downright intimidating with his fearsome facial structure. Unlike before, Naruto was no longer even a little bit afraid of the tailed beast. He returned a smile as well. Thank you, Kurama. Hee. Minato noticed his body beginning to fade, as did Kushina. Our chakra won't last much longer in here. We have at most a minute left. I have one more thing left to do. I sealed the yin half of Kurama into myself and the yang half into you. Now, I plan on releasing the yin half and reuniting their chakra. As he said so, he rapidly flashed through a chain of hand seals. The hack fuin under Minato's shirt began to fade, before Minato finally yelled, Hack Kaien, 8 trigrams unseal. Chakra bubbled and exploded from the seal on Minato, bursting out and flying straight towards Yonkarama. The yin half of the Kyuubi's chakra merged with its yang half, finally restoring Kurama to his original form and power. The majestic Biju smirked as he felt the return of his former strength. Minato continued, I have one last important thing to tell you. That night, a masked man with the Sharingan attacked Konoha. He was the one who drew Kurama from your mother and summoned him to attack the village. I strongly believe him to be Uchiha Madara since he entered the village without triggering the sensing barrier and could control Kurama. The tailed beast shook his head. No, it wasn't Madara. His Sharingan was different. He was another Uchiha pretending to be Madara, as I could tell from his chakra signature. And Kami knows why. Kushina warned, We have about 10 seconds left. They spoke the next words together. Just remember, whatever you do, we'll always love you. With those parting words, the chakra forms of Minato and Kushina dissolved into nothingness. Naruto smiled with tears falling down his face once again. He was very ecstatic to have met his parents, and it sucked that they were now gone. Well, it appeared that he would just have to make them proud. He knew they would be watching from the afterlife. Kurama spoke, Naruto, let me brief you on our new abilities. Now that I'm back at my full strength, what you could originally do with Biju Moto, Tailed Beast Mode, is amplified. Firstly, you can choose to either do a partial or a complete transformation. The former allows you to manifest my head, tails, claws, or any part of my body for standard combat purposes, while the latter lets you transform into my whole chakra body for large-scale battles. If you want to summon my complete self in the flesh outside of yourself, use the Kuchios instead. You will now be able to use the Biju Dhamma when you are in Biju Moto, and since it shares some characteristics with the Rasengan in terms of its formation, learning how to perform it shouldn't be too difficult. You'll also be able to summon shadow clones of me during the tailed beast transformation, and in 6-path sage mode, combine them to form a giant multi-headed avatar. And since our chakra pools are connected, I can amass natural energy for you while inside you since I'm technically not moving when within. I could go on, but you get the point. Over the next few days, I'll be teaching you how to maximize the potential of our connection, including many of the awesome abilities I possess outside of the Biju Dhamma. I'm looking forward to it, Kurama, said Naruto with a grin. Asura reminded, Shikaku-kun told you to use the Shinso Shinri to contact him once you two were fully linked as Biju and Jinchuriki? Remember? On it, Kurama grunted, his hands together as he gathered chakra to connect the spiritual energy of Shikaku and his own. This was the hallmark of Ninshu Ninja Creed, the ability to connect people's spiritual energy with chakra in order to enhance communications without speaking or even being near each other. In fact, it was the original reason Hagoromo had distributed his chakra to humans in the first place. Not to fight, but to make peace. Alas, it had been weaponized into ninjutsu by Indra and since then, been the cause of bloodier conflicts throughout history. Kurama, Naruto, and Asura disappeared from the mindscape, reappearing within a plain white void with Shikaku and Gaara. Tailed beast psyche plane. So, Shikaku-san, why did you ask me to contact you? Questioned Naruto curiously. The One-Tail responded, when I shared my memories and chakra with you, I had also gifted my Jitan, magnet style, along with it. By now, my chakra should have assimilated completely into your chakra coils, imbuing it with the magnet style. Whenever you mold futon and doton chakra simultaneously, you will produce my signature Jitan, which allows you to bind and restrain opponents with curse marks like those on my body, Shikaku explained. Naruto's face lit up. That's an awesome ability you have, Shikaku-san. Arigato. Shikaku smirked. And congratulations for merging with my brother. He looked at Kurama. Treat him well, Nizan. Tsuke. I don't need you to tell me that. Naruto interrupted. But why didn't you just tell me this when you first gave it to me? Shikaku answered. Simple. I sensed that my other brother's incarnate was there as well. I did not want her to know about what you would receive from me. Sayuri, Naruto thought. His expression returned to normal. Whatever the case, thank you very much, Shikaku-san. The Kyuubi and his Jinchuriki disappeared once again. Reality, time continue. So, how was it? Asked Jiraiya nervously when he noticed Naruto's eyes opening. The blonde stood up and said, It was cool. I got to meet my parents and unlocked a whole new set of abilities. Jiraiya sighed in relief. At least he didn't go on a rampage and destroy Hai no Kuni. Well, looks like you'll be able to use the next few days of your journey to train. At least you'll be ready for Akatsuki when they come for you. Akatsuki? What's that? Asked Naruto. Jiraiya replied, The Akatsuki are a group of S-rank nuke-nin with a sole objective, to capture and gather all the 9-tailed beasts. No one knows why either. The group operates in two-man teams consisting of Uchiha Itachi of the Sharingan from Konohagakure and Hoshigaki Kisame, the tailless tailed beast from Kirigakure, Sasori of the Red Sands from Sunagakure and Deidara from Iwagakure, village hidden in the rocks, Haiden from Yugakure, village hidden in hot water, and Kakazu from Takigakure. Orochimaru was once part of this organization as well but defected. There are more members, but I'm not sure of their identity. You mentioned that they want to collect the Biju, Naruto noted. I have a feeling I know why. The Uzumaki then repeated the prophecy that Jiraiya had told him about, emphasizing the return of Kagaya and the infinite Tsukuyomi, as well as the Geto Mazo. Naruto theorized that the Akatsuki planned to restore the Jubi and use it as a weapon of mass destruction. If so, stopping them will be crucial, Jiraiya said. I will train you to prepare for a confrontation as soon as possible." With that, the two strode onward to the next town, unaware of another pair that had just arrived at the village. One of those they had just mentioned, Kanahagakure. Two figures donning straw hats and black cloaks with red clouds strode towards the village calmly. One of them carried a huge popsicle-like object wrapped in white bandages. They approached the gate, unfazed by the Chunin guard who ordered them to stop. "Halt! What's your business in Kanahagakure?" the guard asked as per protocol. The one who wasn't carrying anything raised a hand to his hat, tilting it slightly such that the powerful, hypnotizing gaze of his glowing red eyes made contact with the guards. "Our business is none of yours." The duo walked in casually as the Chunin collapsed to the floor. "Let's grab some dango, Kisame." The one carrying the huge popsicle nodded his head in agreement. They entered a dango stand and ordered some to eat while thinking about their mission. Loitering just outside the stand was none other than the copy ninja, Hatake Kakashi. The Jonin senseis of Team 8 and 10 walked by, greeting the silver-haired ninja. "Yo, you two seem to be getting along," Kakashi teased. Kurenai blushed, while Asuma started coughing. The genjutsu specialist replied, "It's not what you think. Anko just asked me to get some dango for her." Kakashi's eyebrows were raised as that didn't account for Asuma's presence. The Sarutobi, eager to change the topic, asked, "What about you?" The sensei of Team 7 flashed some field signals while replying, "I'm waiting for Sayuri to get here." His nonverbal message got through clearly to his fellow Jonins. Tail the two inside. The raven-haired man inside the stand paused his eating upon hearing that name. Asuma scoffed. "You, Hatake Kakashi, early and waiting for someone? That's a surprise." Kakashi didn't reply as his student arrived. Sayuri was surprised to see her sensei already there. "You're actually early for once, Kakashi-sensei?" The two Jonins burst out laughing. "Hey, I can be early for some things if I want to," the Hatake retorted. "Anyways, I don't really like sweet stuff. Could we eat somewhere else?" Kakashi nodded. "Sure, let's go to Ichiraku." As they walked away, Asuma and Kurenai lifted the flap covering the dango stand. The two had vanished. Konoha Park. The pair of cloaked men strode down the walkway beside the lake of the park. Unsurprisingly, the two Jonin that were tailing them appeared in front of them. "Halt! I've never seen you guys in the village before. You must be strangers, and yet you seem to know the village very well. Identify yourselves," demanded Asuma. The raven-haired man smirked. He looked up and once again tilted his hat to reveal his striking crimson eyes swirling with 3 black magatama. "The Sharingan," Kurenai thought. "It's been a long while," said the man as he discarded his straw hat to the floor. "Asuma-san, Kurenai-san, why you're Uchiha Itachi," Kurenai exclaimed in disbelief. Kisame tossed his hat aside as well. "I have yet to introduce myself." "You don't have to," Asuma said. "Hashigaki Kisame of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist." The squaline man grinned. "I suppose you know my sword as well then." "Samahata." The Kiri Nuke Nin lunged at Asuma and swung the popsicle-shaped package off his shoulder. Quickly, the Sandame's son raised a trench knife to block the incoming sword. Despite putting in a lot of force, the weight of Samahata was still very great and bore down on Asuma, who was just inches away from getting his shoulder torn off by the sword. Meanwhile, Kisame wasn't putting much effort at all to press his sword down on the Sarutobi. "My sword doesn't cut you. It shreds you to ribbons." With that, he pushed the sword down with even more force than before, making Asuma maneuver to the side and counter with a swipe of his other hand's trench knife, which he had imbued with futon chakra. The buzzing blade sliced Kisame's cheek just as Samahata narrowly glanced past Asuma's left shoulder. Still, a huge wound appeared on his shoulder. The blade had somehow torn through his flak jacket as well as his shirt. Asuma grimaced as he returned to Kurenai's side. If the brief exchange told him anything, it was that they would be severely ed without backup. Itachi remarked, "Be careful, Kisame." He was a former member of the Shugenin Junichi, Guardian Shinobi 12. Kurenai formed hand seals and disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Suddenly, a tree grew around Itachi and bound him to it. Kurenai emerged from the part of the trunk right above his head, a kunai poised to strike. This is the end for you, Itachi. Megan, Jubaku Satsu, demonic illusion, tree binding death. With that, she thrust the kunai into Itachi's head. Itachi looked up at her, his red eyes glaring into her soul. His form shimmered before warping and contorting. A second later, and Kurenai was the one who found herself secured to a tree. Itachi was standing a meter away with his Sharingan glowing. You should know, Kurenai-san, genjutsu of that level doesn't work on me. He charged at her with the intent to repeat her motion. Urgently, Kurenai bit her lip and drew blood. The pain broke the genjutsu, just in time for her to see Itachi spin around and execute a roundhouse kick. Though she had raised her hands in a block, the kick was still powerful enough to send her over the railing and into the lake. Itachi's body flickered next to her on the surface of the lake. Suddenly, he felt the cold sensation of the blade of a kunai on his neck. It's over for you, stated Kakashi coldly. With Asuma earlier, Asuma watched his fellow Jonin in concern as she was launched into the lake by a single kick from the Uchiha. Kisame warned, "This isn't the time for you to be looking over there, Asuma-san. Suetun, Suikoden no Jutsu, water style, water shark bomb. Suetun, Suikoden no Jutsu," came another cry. The two techniques collided and canceled each other out. The one who had released the other water shark bullet was a shadow clone of Kakashi, who was currently holding Itachi at Kunapoint. Itachi chuckled in a deep voice. It seems we have ourselves a battle. 5 minutes later, Kakashi was kneeling on the surface of the water in intense pain from the Tsukuyami that Itachi had just cast on him, while Asuma and Kurenai were quivering in fear and had their eyes closed as they did not want to meet the same fate. Itachi cupped his bleeding eye in pain as well due to the drawback of the Mangekyo ability. Kisame was about to end the fight when Madogai jumped in front of his three comrades and intervened. "It is I, Madogai, Konoha's sublime green beast of prey," the taijutsu specialist shouted. "Kisame, let's go. We were here to search for our target, not cause a huge ruckus." "More reinforcements are certainly on the way," said Itachi. "All right," Kisame complied. "Wait, who is it you guys are after? Is it Sayuri?" asked Kakashi, still panting hard from the genjutsu. "No, we are after the Yandame's legacy," Itachi answered cryptically. In a blur, they disappeared. "Naruto, huh?" Kakashi thought before finally succumbing to the effects of the Tsukuyami and fainting. Half an hour later, Sayuri went to find Kakashi in his apartment. Earlier, after having a quick lunch at Ichiraku's, her sensei had left her at a training ground to perfect her chidori, stating that he had something to do and that he would be back soon. It had been 30 minutes and she sensed something was off, so she went looking for him. When she reached his apartment, she found many pairs of shoes outside the door. Quickly, she entered his bedroom and found him lying in bed, surrounded by the other Jonin senseis of her graduating class as well as Guy, the taijutsu specialist. She asked, "What happened to Kakashi-sensei? Why is he in bed and why are all of you here?" Many thoughts started racing through her head. For the last time he was in this condition, he had overused his Sharingan during his mission to Wave. All of a sudden, a Tokubetsu Jonin Yamashiro Aoba burst into the room in a panicked state. Without much situational awareness, he blurted out, "Is it true? Did Itachi really return to the village looking for Naruto?" The room's temperature immediately dropped by 5 degrees. Sayuri's expression had changed completely. She turned to face Aoba, who was terrified as her eyes had morphed into the powerful dojutsu of her clan, as well as the 6 paths. "What?" she roared. With that, she disappeared out the door in the blink of an eye. "Baka!" cried an exasperated Asuma, who along with the other Jonin in the room, were trying to keep the situation a secret from the Uchiha, knowing the effect her brother had on her. Sayuri ran through the streets of Konoha urgently. Though she did not know where Itachi was, she did know that he was after Naruto, and she knew she would be able to sense Naruto's chakra. Despite not being a sensor, since the day she awakened the power of Indra, she seemed to possess an innate knowledge of Naruto's location, wherever he was. And now, she could tell that he was in a distant place, certainly outside of Konoha. Without much thought, she exited the village and tore down the path to her brother and the one she loved. With Naruto, Jiraiya and Naruto had just visited and combed 3 towns, and so far, there was still no sign of the slug princess. Along the way, Naruto had been productive and practiced his new techniques whenever they stopped for a break. By the time they entered the next town, it was already sunset. "We'll crash here for tonight," said Jiraiya as they walked into the town, which seemed to be in a celebratory mood. The two walked into an inn and Jiraiya checked in. It wasn't long before the Toad Sage left Naruto alone in the room, citing that he had research to do. "Yeah, right?" Naruto scoffed as Jiraiya closed the door behind him. Regardless, he decided to do some reading on the seal manuals. He was close to piecing the puzzle together when he heard a knock on the door. He closed his eyes, extending his sensory range, and found 2 males, one around 17 while the other was 29. The 17-year-old had a chakra capacity matching Kakashi's and was perhaps even slightly larger. On the other hand, the 29-year-old's chakra reserve was massive, outstripping Jiraiya, and was just below Shikaku's. It was the largest chakra pool belonging to a shinobi he had ever detected that wasn't his own. The blonde restrained a gasp when he traced the ancestry of the 17-year-old, as it was eerily similar to Sayuri's. He was an Uchiha, which could only mean one thing: Uchiha Itachi. Chapter 15. The Fifth Fire Shadow. Previously, Uchiha Itachi. Quickly, Naruto sealed everything away, prepared to make a getaway. "Kami, he's even polite enough to knock," thought Naruto. The blonde opened the door, and as expected, was greeted by the sight of 2 Nuke-nin. According to what Jiraiya had told him earlier, Itachi's partner was Kisame. "Naruto-kun, we've come for you," said Itachi. Kisame grinned, exposing his shark-like teeth. "Can I cut off his legs? He won't be able to escape then, and will certainly be easier to capture." Itachi didn't answer and instead drove his foot into Naruto's stomach. Instead of flying back from the kick, the Uzumaki dispelled in a burst of smoke. "It's a Kage Bunshin," noted Itachi, who observed the curtains in front of the open doors to the balcony swaying. Despite there being no wind, the Akatsuki pair made their way to the balcony, where they saw the original just vaulting over the wall of the inn's backyard and entering a huge clearing in the forest surrounding the town. The two gave chase. Clearing, the Uzumaki spun around, knowing that the shadow clone wouldn't have stalled the 2 S-rank shinobi for long. Of all times, his sensei was away doing research? What rotten luck. He knew that a fight would be inevitable, so he decided to bring the battle to a more suitable place that wouldn't cause as much destruction to the town property. He would have to attract Jiraiya's attention somehow. Itachi voiced, "Naruto-kun, why do you run from us? Come with us willingly and Kisame will not have to drag you away by force." Naruto retaliated. "I'm not having any of your good cop bad cop bullshit. I know you're here for my Biju, and you're not having him. Oh? It seems that we won't be capturing you without a fight. Let's go, Kisame." The blue-faced man charged at the blonde and swung his sword. "This fight will not be an easy one. Lend me your power, Kurama," Naruto thought. He received an acknowledging grunt as the kitsune got to work amassing chakra and natural energy. At the last second, Naruto's eyes flew open and he dodged the sword completely with his speed. Samahata crashed into the ground and obliterated the grass easily. "Eh? You're pretty fast for a genin," Kisame remarked as he executed a kick which Naruto evaded once again. Grabbing Kisame's extended foot, Naruto lifted the Nuke-nin without much effort and tossed him away. "Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu," Naruto intoned. The Kiri Nuke-nin swung his sword out in front of him, cleaving the fireball in 2. "So that sword absorbs chakra?" asked Naruto to no one in particular. Kisame laughed. "Indeed, and it likes the taste of your chakra very much." Suetun, Bakusui Shoha, water style, exploding water shockwave. Kisame yelled before expelling a great volume of water from his mouth. As it surged towards him, Naruto's body underwent multiple changes due to the rise in 6-path Sage Chakra. He sent his 4 truth-seeking balls into the incoming wave and caused it to disappear without a trace. "What?" Kisame cried as he witnessed his Suetun Jutsu being negated. Like his fellow swordsman before him, he was shocked by this onset as well. The 4 Gododama returned to orbit behind Naruto's back. "Since your sword loves my chakra so much, "It can have it!" shouted Naruto, who formed the clone seal. A huge plume of smoke erupted into the air, and from it, hundreds of shadow clones flew at Kisame with spiraling spheres in their hands. Senpo, Kurama Rasen Terengan, Sage Art, Massive Rasengan Barrage. The shadow clone screamed. Kisame waved his sword in front of him as a shield before Itachi could even warn him. Samahata absorbed and dispelled all the shadow clones and their Rasengans, and the more he did so, the heavier his sword felt. By the time the last shadow clone came flying at him, his sword had already been turned to stone from the natural energy. Itachi leapt to his side and quickly conjured his Susanoo, an orange chakra construct which blocked the last shadow clone's attack. "Samahata," Kisame lamented. "You will pay for this, Uzumaki Naruto." The original formed two hand seals. Mokutan, Hote no Jutsu, with style, Laughing Buddha Jutsu. Two giant hands erupted from the ground and attempted to restrain Itachi's Susanoo. Mokutan? How is he able to manipulate the Shodai Hokages with style? Itachi wondered in amazement. Naruto sensed a spike of chakra in Itachi's right eye, and given their distance, he knew that it was going to be long-range technique. A trail of blood leaked down the Uchiha's eye. Amaterasu! Black flames flew at him at high speeds, causing him to whip out his Shikujo and send it forward to intercept them. Mokutan Mokuryu no Jutsu, with style, with Dragon Jutsu, Naruto uttered. Since Itachi could read his lips, the Uchiha's eyes widened in surprise. This was an iconic technique of the first to subdue the Biju by absorbing their chakra, and he had to make sure that it didn't touch his Susanoo. He noticed a presence of chakra beneath the ground and knew that the dragon was about to strike. The moment it burst out from the ground, Itachi formed a huge sake jar and slammed it down on the dragon. As he did so, liquid spilled forth from the jar like a blade, and when it fell on the dragon, it was sucked into the jar. Naruto analyzed this and realized that the sword was clearly not made of chakra, or it would have been absorbed by his dragon. And also, it was one equipped with a powerful Fuinjutsu given the way it sucked his dragon into the jar. "Very good, Naruto-kun. You are one of the few to actually force me to use my Tatsuka no Tsurugi, Tatsuka blade," said Itachi. For no apparent reason, the Uchiha then winced and closed his eyes, which caused his Susanoo to fade away. The Uzumaki said, "I see. So overusing your eyes will cause pain. Am I correct?" Kisame was not amused. "This kid is really something else, Itachi-san." "Kurama, ready to go?" MMHM. A huge amount of chakra was pumped into Naruto's system and caused it to flood and burst out of his body, taking the shape of the feared Biju. "This is bad, Kisame. I can sense Jiraiya coming soon." And if Naruto-kun knows the tailed beast ball dash, as if on cue, a high-pitched sound echoed across the clearing as chakra was gathered into a purple ball. Though Naruto didn't have much experience making a Biju Dama, he had let Kurama take control of his body to do so. If they were in a car, Kurama would be the metaphorical driver while Naruto was the passenger. "Itachi, you deserve this after what you did to Sayuri-chan," Naruto shouted over the roar of the forming tailed beast ball. "Thank you for taking care of her. I leave her to you, Naruto-kun," Itachi replied. Just as the blonde released the ball, the two scattered into water and crows. The Biju Dama sailed harmlessly away into the distance, exploding within the forests. "Shit, they escaped," thought Naruto. Just then, Jiraiya arrived at the clearing. "I felt the Kyuubi's chakra being released. Were you fighting someone?" "They are gone," Naruto deadpanned. It was Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame. He was then hit with a sudden sense of foreboding. Why could he sense Sayuri's chakra approaching him? Said Uchiha burst out from the forest, having detected the surge of the Kyuubi's chakra and witnessed the Biju Dama being detonated. She had assumed the worst and rushed in the direction of Naruto. She saw that the Uzumaki was safe and with his master Jiraiya, but noticed that Itachi was gone. Naruto was worried about her reaction since he knew about the trauma her brother had caused her. "Itachi!" Sayuri hollered. She fell to her knees on the grass and punched the floor in anger, making mounds of dirt fly. "Why? Why? I was so close!" she screamed in rage. She had the chance to kill her brother and avenge the clan, but she had missed it completely. And how had Naruto driven him off? Was he that strong? Naruto was obviously worried about her mental state. It didn't take his negative emotions sensing to tell him that she was clearly furious, frustrated and filled with self-loathing for her inability to slay her brother. Terrifyingly, she suddenly went quiet. The Uchiha stood up with resolve and determination smoldering in her eyes. She was about to put herself through hell to become strong enough to stop her brother. Her chakra had flared due to her agitation, and the deep hatred in her soul caused the grass around her to wither and the soil to be pushed away. Her chakra presence, though not as much as Naruto's, was equally potent and was in fact 10 times more intimidating. Sayuri's mindscape. Indra smiled as he witnessed the Uchiha before him, her will crumbling away and succumbing to the darkness that had enraptured him before. Come, Uchiha Sayuri, I can give you greater strength, coaxed the Akatsuki. The Uchiha looked at him. I don't want your strength, Indra. I want to do this on my own. The man gave a hollow laugh. You won't advance far with your dojutsu without my assistance, Sayuri. There are many things you still have to learn, especially if you wish to surpass my brother's incarnate. Fine. Show me, Indra. Gladly. The Akatsuki narrowed his eyes. Within her mind, she still had feelings for the Uzumaki. It would be troublesome for him to eradicate those feelings so he could corrupt her completely. Well, at least she was a step closer to the darkness and would naturally be completely engulfed within it in time. Patience would be something he must have. Reality. The Uzumaki shivered in her presence and felt a chill run down his spine. He was actually afraid of this side of her, but was willing to reach out to her and comfort her. Alas, that was not to be, as she had other plans. In an instant, she took off in the direction of the leaf. Jiraiya observed the behavior, and the moment she left, he asked, "That was Uchiha Sayuri, the younger sister of Itachi, am I right?" Naruto nodded. "She is. In fact, she's my teammate." The Toad Sage's perverted side returned. "She's actually quite hot. I would totally bang her if she was older," he said with a lecherous grin. The Uzumaki turned to face his sensei, who noticed a lack of reply but saw his right forearm glowing orange with a rapid buildup of Asura's chakra. The glare the blonde sent him was enough to burn holes through his skull. "Oops. Sorry, Naruto. I didn't know that you liked her." The Uzumaki blushed. "It's not what you think." Jiraiya chuckled. I know that expression when I see it. You're in love, kid, just like Minato and Kushina. Allow me to teach you, for I am an expert in this field." Naruto scoffed. "Enough bullshit. You're not even married. What could you teach me, Sanin?" Jiraiya sighed. "Many things, kid, many things." Monday, July 21st. It had been 4 days since the clash with the Akatsuki duo. Though Naruto had ample time to work on his new abilities and even create storage seals for his swords as they were inconvenient to carry around, they still had yet to locate the Slug Princess. Currently, the master and student were in Tanzaka Town, a town about half a day's journey from the Leaf. Festivities were ongoing in the village, another possible hotspot for Tsunade. They entered a packed bar in the early evening in an attempt to look for the Sanin, as apart from gambling, she had another vice: drinking. With Sayuri, the Uchiha had been torturing herself for the past 4 days with training so intense that she refused to stop until she passed out. Under Indra's instruction, she had forcefully and significantly increased the potential of her dojutsu, true to her prodigious nature. Sayuri had gained mastery over a few jutsus and even created one of her own, an S rank in theory, but she yet to put it to practice. She smirked as she donned a new outfit for yet another day of training. Indra had certainly been right about increasing her power. She loved the taste of it, and it was bound to be sufficient to slay her brother in the future. Her thoughts strayed to her blonde teammate. Soon, she would be leaving in the pursuit of her brother. It came sooner than she had imagined, and her plan to not cause any heartbreak had questionable progress. The fact that the village's elders were about to press the CRA on her wasn't helpful at all. If it came down to it, she would not show emotion. With Naruto, a blonde with pigtails, and her black-haired assistant were sitting at a table when they noticed the newcomers. "Oh, Kami, Konohanin, and even Jiraiya's here. He's definitely here for me," muttered Tsunade. "Tsunade Shisho, you should probably sober yourself up before meeting him," Shizune, her assistant, urged. In a matter of seconds, Jiraiya's eyes swept across the bar and caught sight of his former teammate. Together with his student, the two walked to their table. Tsunade looked up and set her cup of sake down. "What are you here for this time, Jiraiya?" the slug princess asked as they sat opposite to her and ordered some food to eat. "I'll cut straight to the point. Sarutobi-sensei has stepped down after Orochimaru attacked the village. Tsunade. They're asking you to be the Hokage," said Jiraiya. Tsunade replied, "So I heard from the man himself. He came to me with his arms chakra network destroyed by a powerful fuinjutsu, asking me to heal them. Someone did quite a number on that snake." Jiraiya smirked. "That was my student, Uzumaki Naruto, who is here along with me today." "Greetings, Tsunade," said the blonde. "Uzumaki Naruto?" She raised an eyebrow. "He's the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, isn't he?" Jiraiya nodded. "What a waste for the Yondaime to give his life saving the village from the Nine Tails. Why would anyone want the Hokage's job? My grandfather, Hashirama, my granduncle Tobirama, and the Yondaime all died while bearing the title of Hokage. Sarutobi-sensei was also close to dying against Orochimaru. Why would someone waste their lives to protect those of people you don't even know? Only a fool would want that job," Tsunade remarked. Without warning, the chopsticks in Naruto's hands snapped. They were metal chopsticks. Trying to restrain his anger, the blonde said, "Tsunade, do not disrespect the title of Hokage or the men who have held that post and gave their lives to the village to protect it. It's frankly disgusting how you desecrate the title of Hokage when you yourself aren't in any position to do so." A drunk, wayward 50-year-old woman transformed as a 20-year-old to maintain a youthful appearance, and to top it off with a gambling addiction despite sucking at it. On their search, Naruto had learnt much about the slug princess from Jiraiya. It did not paint a very pleasant image of her. A giant tick mark appeared on Tsunade's forehead. "What did you say, brat?" she shouted as she swung her fist at his face. Naruto's right hand shot up and caught her fist, stopping it from connecting just inches from his face. Now, Tsunade," Naruto said, his voice going cold. His tone eerily reminded the other occupants of the table of Orochimaru. "You definitely don't want to start an affray in a bar. What will you do if you break the tables, chairs, and cups? With your debts, you'd hardly be able to pay for the damage," stated Naruto. The floor outside the bar burst open and out came a wood clone. "Let's take this outside, shall we?" With that, Naruto executed a sealless substitution with his clone, bringing the Sanin and him out into the warm sunset. Shizune and Jiraiya quickly rushed outside in an attempt to stop the fight, but were too late. Tsunade growled at the Uzumaki as she cracked her knuckles. How dare he insult her? "Gaki, I will wipe the floor with you for insulting me. A little petty, aren't you? To take your anger out on a genin just because he spoke the truth. No matter, you are welcome to try. Personally, I do not think that you are worthy of the position the village has chosen you for, regardless of whatever strength you possess. But even if I don't like it, I will still have to bring you back. Even if I have to drag you." "Tsunade," Naruto spat. "How about a wager? If I lose, I will go back with you all, and you will even get this," Tsunade offered, pointing at the Shodai's necklace hung around her neck. "If I win, however, you will give me all your money and promise that no Konohinin will come after me ever again." Shizune began. "Shisho, please don't do this. You can't dash." "Shut up, Shizune. This is my fight. I can't wait to put this brat into his place. Come." Tsunade incited. Naruto took a deep breath. The moment he exhaled, he disappeared. A loud boom resounded from the point of impact where he threw a punch. The Sanin had just narrowly managed to bring up her arms in a cross guard. Tsunade took the hit and spun around, launching a low kick. Naruto jumped up and over her shoulders, handspringing and landing behind her. She spun around and threw a punch with her left hand. Naruto stepped aside and gripped her forearm with both hands before sliding one quickly across the length of her arm and towards her neck in a chop. Tsunade's right hand shot up and stopped the chop from connecting, grabbing his left hand as well. With both hands secured, she flung him around to the other side and plunged her chakra-enhanced foot into his stomach, causing him to fly 20 meters away. He tumbled across the floor before rolling to a kneel. His hand reached for his ribs to assess the damage. 6 of them were broken from the immediate trauma of her kick. However, they were already mending quickly, and within seconds, he stood up normally as if nothing had happened. Tsunade noticed this and her eyes went wide. As a skilled medic, she knew that a blow like the one she caused should have completely shattered his ribcage into pieces, and he shouldn't have been able to stand after such fatal impact like that. This kid was really something else. To possess such an advanced healing factor was reminiscent of that of her late grandfather, the shinobi no kami. The Sanin was pissed off, something Jiraiya could clearly see from the gigantic amount of chakra amassed within her right fist. She was about to unleash a technique that could end a life. Naruto's right fist was the same, glowing bright with orange chakra. Let's end this, Tsunadeheim. Agreed. Simultaneously, the two rushed at each other, tearing up the street as they ran. The distance closed rapidly, and within seconds, their fists collided. Orange chakra clashed with the blue of Tsunade's and fought to consume each other. Naruto roared and pumped more of Asura's chakra into his fist, causing it to overpower Tsunade's would-be fatal punch. The Senju was thrown back by a powerful explosion, rocketing into the rock wall of the small town 200 meters away. The Uzumaki's hand grew dim as he panted from exhausting that much chakra. Inwardly, Jiraiya was happy that his apprentice had been victorious. Tree trunks and branches grew out of the floor near to the wall and grabbed Tsunade, gradually rolling her back to where the three were. She was still conscious, something that was unsurprising given her status as the most powerful kunoichi in the elemental nations, along with the fact that she was the best Irionin in the world. You, Tsunadeheim, I do wish for you to concede and come back with us. What the village needs right now is a strong leader to bring it from its current destruction and corruption at the hands of the council. You can be that person. I, a mere genin and 12 3/4-year-old, can understand that, so why not you, a mature 50-year-old and powerful medic regarded as the strongest kunoichi in the world? Life may have treated you harshly by terminating the lives of those you loved or deemed precious to you, but regardless, they can still live on in your memories. Their hopes and dreams don't die just because they do. Instead, they are handed down to the next generation to fulfill for them. I, for one, would like to hold that position of Hokage one day, and you can just hold it for me in the meantime, alright? Nawaki and Dan couldn't be any happier if you fulfilled their dreams for them. The blonde stretched his hand. Reluctantly, the slug princess took it and was pulled up into a standing position. When she looked at Naruto, she was reminded of her younger brother Nawaki and her lover Dan, both who wished to become Hokage but died before they could fulfill it. Her voice became one of determination. All right, Uzumaki Naruto. I will take the position of Godame for the people I love, Tsunade vowed. Naruto turned to Jiraiya and flashed him a smile as he let go of Tsunade's hand. Thank you for being understanding, Tsunadeheim, said Naruto. As for dealing with Orochimaru, when do you have to answer him? Tomorrow afternoon. He will return for my answer and does not want me to have any companions. He promised that he would revive Dan and Nawaki in exchange for healing his arms, after which he would use his regained power to attack Konoha. You do know you can't do that, right? Even if I didn't know Dan or Nawaki, I'm sure they wouldn't want to be brought back at the cost of Konoha's safety. Besides, the Edo Tensei really just uses a human sacrifice as a vessel for the spirit of the dead, and Orochimaru can suppress their will and control their actions. As an Irionin, I'm sure you are aware of the sanctity of life and know that it is unethical to use a human sacrifice or bring back the dead, and especially use a human sacrifice to bring back the dead, Naruto deadpanned. Yeah, Tsunade replied sadly before she looked up. A vicious grin hung on her face as she declared, I will blow Orochimaru to bits. Naruto laughed. No doubt. Tuesday, July 22nd. The sun had found its place in the sky, signaling the passing of noon. The world's most powerful kunoichi stepped onto the field that she had agreed to meet with Orochimaru at. The snake Sanin was already there with his assistant Kabuto, smiling as they noticed the slug princess approaching without any companions. They took it as a sign of her agreement and cooperation. Now, Tsunadeheim, I assume you have agreed to our terms. Heal my arms, and I will bring back your loved ones, Orochimaru said. Tsunade nodded and walked towards him, her hands lighting up with chakra. Just as she reached him, Kabuto suddenly grabbed his master and leapt back. Orochimaru-sama. She has killing intent and does not intend to heal you at all, Kabuto warned. A frown now adorned the snake Sanin's face. Now, this is most unpleasant, Orochimaru hissed. Hey, you think I'll forgive you for wrecking the village? I will be Senju Tsunade, Godame Hokage of Konohagakure. And today, I shall execute a traitor, declared Tsunade. Kabuto jumped forth to attack the Sanin, conjuring chakra scalpels to execute a precise assault. As she ducked, the slug princess commented, "So you're an Irionin too, huh? First time I've seen chakra scalpels used offensively." "Indeed. I'm honored for your acknowledgement, Tsunade-sama," replied Kabuto as he contacted two of her tendons, causing internal injuries which caused her to fall to the floor. "TSK. You're weaker than I thought, Tsunade-sama," Kabuto remarked with a sneer. With a sudden burst of energy, she sprung up and slapped him with enough force to throw him away. When he tried to stand up, he only found that he couldn't. When he tried to move his right arm, his left thigh tensed. The same applied to his left shoulder and right foot. I've underestimated her. I have to remember that she's still one of the Densetsu no Sanin, thought Kabuto. Tsunade smirked as she stood up, applying the Shozen Jutsu, mystical palm jutsu, to herself. Still convinced that I'm weak? Tsunade asked rhetorically as she strode towards Kabuto. The Otonin's nervous system had went haywire due to the Raiton chakra Tsunade had sent into his body during her slap, resulting in the scrambling of signals that would have normally allowed him to control his own body parts at will. But with time and concentration, Kabuto could relearn his body's movements by knowing what thought moves which part. And that's exactly what he did. Gradually, he stood up. How did he recover so quickly? Thought Tsunade. There's a reason I'm Orochimaru-sama's right-hand man, Tsunade-sama, boasted Kabuto as he grabbed a kunai from his pouch. Just as Tsunade was about to reach him, he stabbed his own hand with his kunai, splattering blood all over her face. Due to her hemophobia, Tsunade started to tremble. So your fear of blood is true. I would have had greater respect for a fellow Irionin, especially one renowned as the world's best. But look at how pathetic you are. A medic, afraid of blood. Kabuto scorned. I'm afraid I'll have to subdue you and force you to heal Orochimaru-sama. Just as he was about to strike the slug princess, an orange flash appeared before him and blitzed him with a punch at the speed of light, sending him flying back to his master. Kabuto spat out the blood from his mouth as well as some of the teeth that came dislodged from that punch. It's you, the assistant said in disbelief. What the hell was Uzumaki Naruto doing here? Two figures came to his side, Jiraiya and Shizune. The black-haired woman quickly wiped the blood off of Tsunade's face. Uzumaki Naruto? Orochimaru greeted in a raspy voice, which sounded like a knife scraping across stone. How are your arms, Orochimaru? Taunted the Uzumaki. Why, thank you for the concern. Kill him, Kabuto. Hi! Yelled Kabuto as he lunged at the blonde. The man thrust his chakra scalpel into Naruto's chest, piercing through it easily and severing his heart arteries. The Uzumaki smirked, before grabbing and restraining Kabuto's outstretched hand. Naruto's skin turned brown as he transformed into a small tree. What? Kabuto barely had the time to gasp just before the original burst out from the ground and delivered an uppercut just as he dispelled the tree, causing him to crash at the feet of his master. Looks like I have no choice. Aid me, Kabuto, ordered Orochimaru, who then rolled up his left sleeve, which revealed what Naruto recognized as summoning seal. Upon noticing what he was about to do, Tsunade and Jiraiya bit their thumbs and drew blood just as he did. Kabuto pumped as much chakra as he could into Orochimaru's seal, while the other two Sanin flashed through 5 hand seals. Simultaneously, the 3 Sanin intoned, Ninpo, Kuchios no Jutsu. Smoke erupted from the 3 summoning arrays, revealing 3 huge summons when it cleared. Jiraiya had summoned Gamabunta, while Tsunade had summoned Katsuyu, a slug which was her personal summon. On Orochimaru's side was a giant purple snake with yellow, slitted eyes. The snake looked at the toad and the slug before saying to Orochimaru, "You should have a good reason for summoning me to fight Gamabunta and Katsuyu." I'd better receive 100 human sacrifices after this, the reptile hissed. Orochimaru smirked and replied, "Don't worry, Manda. I'll make this interesting for you." Gamabunta drew his tanto and took a puff from his pipe. "Oh boy, it's the three-way summoning deadlock again. It's been a long while, Katsuyu." "Yes, Gamabunta-san, and I can't say I look forward to fighting Manda-san, but well, here goes," the slug replied as soon as the snake charged in a speedy slither one wouldn't expect from something his size. The toad sage flashed through hand seals as he requested, "Bunta, give me some oil." The toad chief prepared his Gamayuden, toad oil bullet, just as Jiraiya complete the sequence for the fireball jutsu. Katan, Gameu Enden, fire style, toad oil flamethrower. Jiraiya yelled as he expelled the fire chakra he had needed in his lungs. It joined the stream of oil that Gamabunta pumped out of his mouth, which served as an accelerant to make the flames a firestorm. It engulfed Manda, but everybody who knew a snake knew that it wouldn't die so easily. Naruto detected the presence of the snake underground and could sense that it was about to attack the slug. "Katsuyu-sama, watch out," Naruto warned. A second later, Manda burst out from the ground and sunk its fangs into Katsuyu's neck, forgetting the fact that the slug had no neck whatsoever. With her Katsuyu Daibanretsu, Slug Great Division, Tsunade's summon divided into hundreds of smaller slugs, allowing her to escape Manda's grip. Naruto weaved some hand seals for a Mokutan Jutsu. After all, what style was known as the one nature transformation that could subdue beasts of all kind. And not for no reason at all. The trees produced had the ability to sap chakra from their prisoners at the user's will. Mokutan, Hotei no Jutsu. Giant hands emerged from the ground and grabbed hold of Manda. Knowing how slippery a snake could be, Naruto decided not to take any chances and mixed some natural energy with his chakra to initiate a special sealing technique. As he placed his hands in the ram hand seal, orange pigment appeared around his eyes. Senpo, Myojinman, Sage Art, Gate of the Great God. Out of nowhere, 10 huge red tori manifested and fell from the sky, slamming down on the colossal snake and pinning him further. Manda hissed in anger. "Orochimaru, you'll pay for this humilia dash." He was interrupted when Naruto slapped a hand on his scaly purple skin and caused Jutsushiki to spread out from the point of contact. "Kyaku Fuin," Naruto called, applying a contract seal which severed their summoning contract. "Ugh!" Orochimaru cried, wincing as he knelt on the floor. Pain shot through his left arm as the summoning seal was forcefully erased. "Let's end this once and for all." "Kuchios no Jutsu," Naruto yelled as he slammed his hand on the ground. "Ya-ne Kyubi." A giant summoning array spread out from his palm, much bigger than that of the three beasts summoned before. Chakra smoke of epic proportions burst from spacetime as the mightiest of the Biju was summoned outside of his seal. When it cleared, everyone except Naruto was terrified as the fox was exactly as fearsome as they expected. He had thick orange fur, claws and fangs as huge as ramen stands as well as piercing, slitted red eyes which held nothing but hatred and contempt for those who stood before him. He was a titanic being, easily towering over the other three summons and being 10 times their height and size. Could you imagine being in the presence of the personification of destruction itself? A beast that, with a single swipe of any one of his 9 tails, could induce tsunamis, and roars that produced tornadoes as well as a stomp that would rock the very earth with earthquakes. To top it off, a single-tailed beast ball from him was all it took to change the landscape into something new. It was no wonder that almost everyone there was shivering in Kurama's presence. No thanks to the attack on Konoha about 13 years ago, which pretty much cemented the Kyuubi's reputation as a killing machine capable of devastation beyond belief. "Ike, Kurama!" incited Naruto. Red and blue orbs of chakra materialized in the air in front of the colossal fox, converging to form a purple sphere that increased exponentially in size as seconds passed. Kurama supercharged it with his chakra, forcing the Bijudama to expand to thrice its current size. Though Manda couldn't sweat, he was sure as hell doing the beast's equivalent. "Orochimaru-sama, this is bad. We have to get away now," warned Kabuto. As Kurama compressed and swallowed the tailed beast ball, The right-hand man quickly formed hand seals for a long-distance teleportation technique that would bring him and his master away from the blast zone. To his horror, he realized that he was out of chakra. He found that he had none left to need, having spent quite a lot in transferring enough chakra to summon Manda earlier. And now they would be doomed. Kurama opened his mouth. All it took was a second for the highly compressed beam of energy to obliterate everything in front of it. Orochimaru, Kabuto, and Manda were all goners. Jiraiya paled at the display of power. He was certainly glad that the Kyuubi was on their side. "Thanks, Kurama," said Naruto with a smile as he patted the kitsune on his head like he was an overgrown plushie. The fox growled. "I do not appreciate being treated like a toy, Naruto. Time for me to sleep." With that, the Kyuubi dispelled in a second burst of smoke. Naruto approached Tsunade with a grin. "I believe you have something which now belongs to me, Tsunade-bachan," he said cheekily. The slug princess was so happy that she had gotten rid of a threat that she decided to let it slide for once. Tsunade reached for her necklace and untied it. She walked behind Naruto and secured it around his neck. As she did, she said, "I'm bequeathing this to you as a way of passing down Dan and Nawaki's dreams in the hope that one day you will be able to fulfill them. Someday, you'd better take the hat from Migaki." "Got it?" Naruto nodded right before she ruffled his hair. This would be the last time she would entrust the Shodai's necklace to anyone anymore. Nawaki had once wore it till he died. Then Tsunade gave it to Dan before he too died. The only person who seemed to be unaffected by this curse was Tsunade. The fact that she chose to put faith in hopes and dreams one more time and entrust the necklace to Naruto meant something significant, which did not go unnoticed by Shizune. The assistant was very happy for her sensei, and was also grateful to the blonde for changing her teacher's mindset ever since the death of her Uncle Dan had changed her. "Let's head back to the inn," suggested Jiraiya, to which he received nods of assent. Naruto was now pondering his next problem after finding Tsunade and killing Orochimaru. He had to convince the Godame Hokage to delay Sayuri's promotion and put his into effect, as well as propose to the Uchiha as soon as possible. Today is July 22nd, which means that tomorrow. Naruto's eyes widened. The 23rd of July was Sayuri's birthday. What a coincidence. He supposed as part of his birthday gift to her, he could pop the question and it wouldn't be too awkward then. Now, he had to acquire a birthday gift along with an engagement ring before returning to Konoha, which was about 6 hours away. "Excuse me, I have something to get. I'll see you all back at the inn in an hour, all right?" asked Naruto. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow but nodded. The blonde took off and went into town. What should he get her? He knew that usually, kunoichi, especially her, would prefer to have more practical equipment such as kunai pouches as compared to aesthetic gifts. But to show his love for her, he had to treat her differently from every other girl in the world and get her a special gift that would be aesthetic in nature to show that he treated her as girl rather than a kunoichi for that moment, especially when he was going to propose. It was a gamble, but it would be worth the shot. He just hoped that it wouldn't end with him being castrated. Naruto laughed to himself as he walked towards a jeweler. After all, he might as well as get the birthday gift along with the ring. As the blonde transformed into a man and entered the store, he was contemplating whether he should get a necklace or a pair of earrings. He decided that though she was a girl, she was still a kunoichi, and a pair of stud earrings wouldn't get in the way as compared to a necklace that would flail during movement. It would also increase her chances of accepting the gift, though it remained aesthetically pleasing. "Hi, sir. How can I help you?" asked one of the staff cheerfully. He looked at her and said, "I would like to get a pair of earrings as well as an engagement ring." The staff's eyes widened. "All right, follow me." She led him to a glass case containing matching sets of earrings and an engagement ring. There were various colors, but Naruto knew Sayuri well enough to know she preferred black and red. He relayed his request to the shop assistant, who took out one such set. They were a beautiful pair of stud earrings, with square rubies bordered by black metal. The engagement ring itself consisted of 3 gray bands studded with small, clear diamonds as accent stones, while the top had a red diamond elegantly surrounded by black prongs. "How much are these?" asked Naruto. 2 million ryo, sir," came the reply. The staff member was looking at him hopefully, knowing that the price was rather steep. Naruto smiled as he took out the necessary money and placed it on the counter. "I'll have it." Happily, the shop attendant placed the set in small boxes and placed them in a bag before handing them over to her blonde customer. "Thank you for your business, sir. And good luck for your proposal," said the shop attendant as Naruto left with a smirk on his face. "Whoever marries him is a lucky girl," thought the woman dreamily, unaware that the person she just served was merely 12 and soon 13. Naruto got back to the inn and met up with the other three, packing up their stuff before leaving for the Leaf. Along the way, they chatted, with Naruto recounting his life story and highlighting his requests to the incoming Hokage. Shizen was starstruck by his love life and gave a squeal when he said he planned on proposing tomorrow. "You sound like a very interesting person, Sayuri," thought Tsunade as they neared the village. At the guardhouse, Izumo tensed as he recognized the people approaching the gate. "It's Tsunade-sama," said Izumo to Kotetsu, who looked up from his book. As they walked down the streets, the group received numerous stares and murmurs. "Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama. Why are they with that kid? Tsunade-sama is back." They ignored them and quickly got to the hospital ward where Hiruzen was. They discussed the transition of power, while Naruto was frankly a lot more concerned about his proposal tomorrow. Despite what he told himself earlier, proposing was easier said than done. Just thinking about it made him nervous. Finally, he returned to the Uzumaki residence, which was now spotless. Once he unpacked his things, Naruto prepared to go to sleep. Sitting on the bed, he stared at the jeweler boxes in front of him. A part of him was really afraid, as a proposal was tantamount to a confession of his love. Any boy confessing would definitely be scared of rejection. This was made 10 times worse by his horrible childhood, where he had never been loved unconditionally, nor did he open his heart to someone. Bearing his feelings made him feel vulnerable, more so than any other person confessing. It did not require much explanation to deduce that Naruto was scared, not just of rejection but also losing a friend and a teammate. Even if she accepted because she had to in order to evade the CRA, Naruto knew that if Sayuri didn't like him, their marriage would be pointless, as she wouldn't be happy at all. Kurama growled in annoyance at the horrendous number of thoughts running through his head. Asura sighed and spoke up. "Listen, Naruto-kun. Love is not something you can use logic and reasoning to explain or make decisions. If you like her, then that's that. Nothing else should stop you from expressing it. Now go sleep. You need rest if you are to be engaged tomorrow." Naruto heard what Asura said, and though he was still thinking about it, he decided to give up and go to sleep. His ancestor was right, and he really needed that rest. The blonde delicately placed the jeweler boxes onto his nightstand, and with that, he hit the pillow. Before he knew it, sleep engulfed his fatigued body and he was out like a light. Wednesday, July 23rd. Naruto woke up bright and early to prepare for his undertaking. Sayuri, on the other hand, decided to sleep in for her birthday. The blonde put on a new outfit for his proposal, an orange shirt with a black jacket and black hand warmers accenting it. Navy blue pants and a red sash securing the jacket completed the outfit. He sealed both swords into the storage seals he had inscribed onto his hand warmers earlier during his trip with Jiraiya. Checking his shuriken pouch and kunai holster, he ensured they were stocked before he finally left the house with his gifts in hand. Asura mused that Naruto was merely distracting himself with the daily routine of gearing up, as he didn't yet possess the courage to confess and propose. He sighed. Would Naruto really be able to do it? Uchiha compound. After traveling all the way to the other side of the village, the blonde finally arrived at Sayuri's residence. He pushed the 2 flaps at the entrance apart and walked along the rocky path that led to the central house, the clan head and his immediate family's abode. Naruto stopped at the front door and took a deep breath before shouting, "Sayuri-chan, are you awake?" The Uzumaki could sense her chakra fluctuating as she woke up and got out of her bedroom. "I was woken up by you, but yeah, I'll be there in a minute," deadpanned Sayuri as she quickly fixed her hair before opening the door. "Yo, Whiskers-kun, why are you here?" asked Sayuri with a yawn. Naruto was just stunned by her sleeping clothes. She was dressed merely in a periwinkle romper, so sexy that it made him blush, but he tried to suppress it. Quickly, he forced his mind to return to its train of thought. "Happy birthday, Sayuri-chan," said Naruto with a smile. "Thank you." A smirk then formed on her lips as she asked playfully, Did you get me a gift? The Uzumaki nodded and brought out the box holding her earrings. That's all? Questioned Sayuri, eyeing the small black box. Yep. His hesitation before replying did not go unnoticed. Thanks, Whiskers-kun, she said happily, hugging the blonde. Both faces were flushed, but neither could see it as they weren't facing each other. A million thoughts a minute raced through Naruto's head. The proposal, what about it? Now was the time. He felt his mouth going dry, his throat parched. His palms started to sweat and got clammy when he drew back from the hug. The blonde's mind went blank completely. Sayuri turned back and said, "See you around then." With that, she closed the door. Inwardly, she cursed herself. What was she thinking? Why did she hug him? The Uchiha was ashamed of herself for not being to control her emotions. Meanwhile, Naruto was already walking away from the Uchiha compound, disappointed at himself for losing courage at the most important moment. Kurama was berating the Uzumaki for his cowardice and letting his anxiety get the best of him. And while Asura had more sympathy for his incarnate, his view was essentially the same as the Kitsune's. Dejected, the blonde made his way back to the Uzumaki compound. With Sayuri, once her embarrassment had evaporated, she decided to open her gift and see what he got her. The Uchiha smiled at seeing a pair of earrings. They reminded her of her childhood, back when her mother brought her to get her ears pierced during one of her birthdays. After the clan massacre, she had stopped wearing earrings as they reminded her of the event, but now, she was solely reminded of the good times. It brought her memory back to that day when she had first met Naruto, and she smiled fondly as she stroked the earrings. Finally, she decided to put them on after brushing her teeth and getting into her usual combat gear. Out of nowhere, she saw shadows flashing by her shoji screen. Instantly, her guard went up as she crept to the door. In one fluid movement, the girl slid open the door. A figure cloaked in yellow with a mask resembling the ANBU stabbed her in the stomach with a tanto, only for her to melt into nothingness. "Genjutsu," the operative uttered. "Taicho, she's outside in the backyard," reported one of his subordinates, who wore black cloaks. The man nodded and all 10 intruders ran in the direction of the field. Standing there awaiting them was none other than the Uchiha Scion herself, dojutsu primed and ready for a fight. She scowled. "Umbu, you better have a good reason for coming here, much less stabbing me on my birthday." The man in the yellow cloak, seemingly the leader, replied in a monotone, "Uchiha Sayuri, come with us peacefully. Danzo-sama demands your presence." No, they aren't ANBU, Sayuri thought. ANBU report only to the Hokage, not anyone else, and the Sandaime certainly wouldn't order his men to stab me. The Uchiha replied, "Stabbing me doesn't seem like a very good way to get me to come with you. Uchiha Sayuri, we have orders to neutralize and take you by force if we have to." "HN. Try me," Sayuri said. Wordlessly, the leader swung his hand forward, the universal signal to launch an attack. The 10 operatives lunged at her in midair. "Time to try this technique," thought Sayuri as she slammed her hands together in the tiger hand seal. She compressed as much Keton chakra as possible and pumped it out after modifying its shape with shape transformation. Keton, Goryuka no Jutsu, Fire Style, Great Dragon Flame Jutsu. The Uchiha expelled the powerful blast of dragon head-shaped fire upwards at them, and as expected they avoided it by jumping away. She willed more to emerge and take off at them, giving them a hard time avoiding it all. Eventually, the attacks ceased, but all the 10 operatives were still alive. "You have poor aim, Uchiha Sayuri," remarked the leader. The girl smirked as the sky darkened. "Isn't it a little presumptuous to think I was aiming for you all?" The heat produced by her techniques had warmed up the atmosphere, creating ascending air currents which formed cumulonimbus in the sky. Thunder rolled across the heavens, bringing rain along with it to the land. With Naruto, a sudden sense of foreboding hit him hard just as he reached the Uzumaki compound's front gates. How had the sunny weather become stormy so quickly? With Sayuri, Chidori, her left hand sparked and crackled with Raitun chakra. The leader emotionlessly replied, "We will bring you into custody." The 10 men began to walk towards the Uchiha as a purple humanoid wrapped around her. The moment they were close to her, she announced, "The name of this jutsu is Kirin." She raised her hand to the sky as if she was making an offering. Seemingly on cue, lightning gathered from the sky and manifested into a colossal dragonoid creature. When it roared, thunderclaps boomed. Even the operatives, who were trained not to have emotions, felt fear at the terrifying sight. And now, begone with the thunderclap. Sayuri swung her hand down at the intruders and sealed their fate. The celestial beast shot out of the clouds and headed straight for the trespassers at 1/1000 th of a second, and didn't even stand a chance against the S-rank jutsu. Within an instant, the natural power of the heavens obliterated all the men, vaporizing them. The surrounding parts of the Uchiha clan compound had been reduced to rubble as well. With Naruto, the Uzumaki was shocked as he saw the huge lightning beast form in the sky, and even more so when it shot down towards the Uchiha clan compound, producing a gigantic explosion. Immediately, he knew that Sayuri was in trouble and swiftly ran towards her house. Once again, he cursed the long distance between their residences. With Sayuri dispelled her Susanoo and quickly returned to her house. She was certain her S-rank technique had drawn the attention of many in the village, including reinforcements for the Danzo-led ANBU. The Uchiha realized that the higher-ups had finally decided to come after her for the CRA. The time to leave was now, or else she would be bound by the CRA and wouldn't be able to avenge her clan. After making sure she left nothing valuable behind, she exited her compound swiftly and made her way to the village gates. She rushed past the guards, merely giving the two Chunin a cursory glance. They were about to stop her when they collapsed onto their desks and fell into a deep sleep. With Naruto, he approached the Uchiha compound and noted that a large part of it had been destroyed, most probably by that creature he saw earlier. Sayuri! Naruto called repeatedly in vain, receiving no response. He ran through the houses but found no one. Closing his eyes, Naruto focused on detecting her chakra signature. He did not receive any signal at all. The Uzumaki grunted and further increased his range, extending it beyond the village. He gasped as her signature registered on his sensory range. Why was she out of the village? Naruto wasted no time and sprinted after the Uchiha. Sayuri was pretty quick too, already passing by the neighboring towns and forests. The blonde chased her through barren stretches of land and more forests before she finally stopped at the border between the land of fire and the land of sound. The border consisted of a mountain range and forests on each side, with only a single passage through, a giant lake the size of the leaf, trailing down a waterfall into a valley. On both sides of the waterfall, there was a tall statue, one of Hashirama on the land of fire side and one of Madara on the land of sound side, symbolizing his defection. Both statues had their hands in the seal of confrontation, facing each other as a memorial of their battle here, which shaped what was known as the Valley of the End. When Naruto finally chased Sayuri here, she was already on the head of the Madara statue. "Wait!" Naruto shouted. The Uchiha stopped in her tracks and turned back to see her favorite blonde. As expected, he had chased her all the way here without rest despite her head start. Naruto was slightly surprised to see her wearing the earrings he had purchased. "What is it, Naruto?" she questioned without emotion. "Why are you leaving the village, Sayuri?" asked Naruto in desperation. "Isn't it obvious? I will become a Chunin as soon as Tsunade promotes me, and will be bound by the CRA. Even if I don't become Chunin, it is inevitable that I turn 18. Just now, Danzo's men attacked me and tried to bring me in. Did you expect me to just sit there and give in to them?" Naruto faltered, cursing himself for not asking earlier. "No, but I do have a solution." The blonde looked her in the eyes and at once, his emotions overwhelmed his body. It was now or never. Dropping to one knee, he asked, "Uchiha Sayuri, will you marry me?"